Chapter 24:13. How is it? The earthworm asked Ning Shu. Ning Shu said directly, the skin is too hard. I can't pierce it at all. Ning Shu poked it several times, but he couldn't pierce it. It felt like the tip of the needle was poking a stone. It seemed that there was no need to worry about this little thing. It would be a little difficult to cut open its body. Then it's fine. The earthworm let out a long sigh of relief. Ning Shu was speechless. He wasn't sure at all. Should I use a chainsaw? Ning Shu asked. Saw? No, it will hurt it. Ning Shu put away the needle. He was originally in a good mood today, but he encountered Li Si, Pai Lupi, and the earthworm said that the soul stone was poisonous. His heart was tired. Why did you say such things? All his good mood was ruined. Pai Lupi's condition was obviously very serious. He didn't know if he could be saved. Ning Shu flew to the seaside, walked into the sea, and dived into the mine. Before diving in, Ning Shu set up barriers around himself. The soul stone was now like a biochemical weapon to Ning Shu. Perhaps he had been exposed to some when he was mining in the past. After entering the mine, Ning Shu saw that there was half a bucket of soul origin liquid inside the mine. Ning Shu collected the soul origin liquid and left the mine. Then she set up a barrier around the mine. Just as she walked out of the sea, she encountered a cultivator carrying a large blade on his back. This cultivator was tall and strong. He stood upright on the beach and looked at Ning Shu. His voice was very loud. You are a sea beast, right? Ning Shu snorted. Who are you? Are you following me? Are you trying to rape me? The big guy was speechless. He didn't expect to bump into a cultivator when he came out. Ning Shu walked out of the sea. When the big guy saw this sea beast walking on the surface of the sea as if it was walking on flat ground, his pupils constricted. He stared at Ning Shu and reached out to pull out the big saber on his back. The broadsword was dazzling under the sunlight. Ning Shu stepped on the beach and took 2 steps toward the big guy. The big guy held his broadsword nervously and took 2 steps back. Move aside, you're blocking my way, Ning Shu said. What kind of sea beast are you? The big guy asked. Mermaid. Isn't it said that piranhas are peerlessly beautiful, capable of causing the downfall of a city? The big guy asked very straightforwardly. Ning Shu was speechless. Ning Shu directly gave this big fat guy a good beating. Moreover, he specifically hit his face, causing him to have a bloody nose and swollen face. That's not what I meant. I meant that you really haven't reached the point where you can cause the downfall of a city. The big guy covered his face and explained vaguely. Which family did he come from? His strength was only average, and he didn't even know how to speak. Ning Shu patted the dust off his hands and turned around to leave. He wasn't worried at all that this big guy would discover the mineral deposits at the bottom of the sea. This was because this soul stone mine was still at the bottom of the sea, and the strong water pressure was something that even powerful cultivators couldn't withstand. The mineral deposits had been set up with a barrier, so it was impossible to enter. In particular, there were so many sea beasts in the sea. Once someone entered, the sea beasts would swarm over. A person's fighting strength in the sea would probably be reduced by half. The big guy covered his face and followed behind Ning Shu. When Ning Shu turned around, he immediately stopped in his tracks. Which sect are you from? Ning Shu had beaten someone up, but he still acted as if nothing had happened. He spoke to the big guy nicely. I'm a disciple of Shadow Plum Nunnery. The big guy covered his face and said. Ning Shu said, Shadow Plum Nunnery, it sounds like the name of a nunnery. It's a nunnery. Ning Shu sized him up. You cultivate in a nunnery? Yes, I'm an orphan. I was picked up by the ants of Shadow Plum Nunnery and brought up. The ants of Shadow Plum Nunnery are all women who can't survive. Ning Shu, what was wrong with her recently? Why did she always meet such straightforward and silly people? It made her feel a little guilty for lying to them. Don't follow me anymore, or I'll eat you. Sea beasts like to eat human cultivators with cultivation the most. Ning Shu threatened. He couldn't even tell that she was a spiritual body. He was probably a newbie who had just entered the Jianghu. The big guy covered his face. You suddenly beat me up, and even beat me up like this. Shouldn't you apologize to me and compensate me with some spirit stones? Fuck, was this a scam? Ning Shu said, I can beat you until you can't speak. You're unreasonable. You beat me up like this? You have to be responsible for me. Ning Shu flew up and left the big guy behind. You beat me up and then ran away. The big guy chased after Ning Shu. His speed was actually comparable to Ning Shu's. He actually ran so fast. Was he pretending to be weak? Ning Shu stopped and looked at him. You must be an expert. I'm all right. The nunnery ants said that my physique is abnormal and very suitable for cultivation. Actually, I don't like to cultivate. Ning Shu, you're saying this to a straight A student. I never study or revise, but I always get first place. I'm hated. Then attack me. Attack me with your big knife. Ning Shu wanted to test the straight A student's fighting ability. The big guy shook his head. I don't like to fight. Ning Shu slapped the big guy's face. The big guy squatted on the ground and hugged his head. You hit me again. You won't give me spirit stones, and you still hit me. Ning Shu, she must have met an idiot. Was this a mentally handicapped child? Ning Shu couldn't be bothered with him. He liked to follow him. Finally, they arrived at the door of Pai Lupi's small house. The big guy was still following behind. Ning Shu knocked on the door. Li Si opened the door. When he saw Ning Shu, he immediately opened the door. He brought you an assistant. Li Si looked at the big guy with a bruised nose and swollen face. After a moment of silence, he asked, Who is this? You have to compensate me with spirit stones, the big guy said to Ning Shu while covering his face. Li Si? What's going on? This lady had spirit liquid, let alone spirit stones. Why was she being chased for debt? This guy's master will give you spirit stones, Ning Shu said. I'm leaving. Li Si thought that this guy was placed here by his lady, so he politely called him in and asked him to wait. He would ask the young master how to settle this guy. You'll compensate me with spirit stones, right? The big guy pulled Li Si and asked. Li Si looked at his unrecognizable face and said, You have to ask the young master about this. The young master wouldn't care about a few spirit stones at all. It was just that the young master was in a bad mood now. Whoever angered him could be scared to death just by his gaze. Okay. The big guy waited for Li Si to call the young master. A gloomy young master appeared from the house. He was a tall and strong man. Although he was strong, he gave people a silly feeling. Since she asked you to stay here, just stay here, the second young master said. Then when will you compensate me with spirit stones? The big guy asked. What spirit stones? Who owes you spirit stones? Who are you looking for? Pai Lupi's face darkened. /BK. Chapter 24:14. Ning Shu walked out of Nine Palace Mountain and saw a black mountain in the world of reincarnation. Ning Shu was really worried. If something happened to Nine Palace Mountain, would it affect her world of reincarnation? The world of reincarnation swallowed too many things and Ning Shu had put in a lot of effort. If something happened to the world of reincarnation, all her efforts would go to waste. Ning Shu checked the world of reincarnation and realized that another leaf had grown. This meant that Ning Shu had to support 4 worlds now. Ning Shu didn't feel anything. It was just 4 leaves and there would be 5 more in the future. 6 more and branches would grow too. Life in the future would be tough and there was nothing to cry about. If the world of reincarnation could evolve normally, she didn't care. She was just afraid that something would go wrong. The investment was risky and she would lose everything if she wasn't careful. Ning Shu felt like she was taking a huge gamble. Ning Shu returned to the system space and took the Soul Source Liquid and Soul Stone for 2333 to purify. He told 2333 not to touch the Soul Stone. The system was a soul too. Do you think the main system will purify these things? Ning Shu said worriedly to 2333. He was afraid that the main system would cut corners. Then, the purified things wouldn't be purified. 2333 didn't reply. Ning Shu shouted helplessly, 2333, what did you say? I was absorbing energy. 2333 asked. What an unnecessary explanation. After the war ended, Ning Shu felt that 2333's situation wasn't right. You must be a minister. 2333 said that she had been imprisoned for many years and His Excellency even asked her to greet 2333. What minister did she know? The only person she was related to was 2333. As for the people she met in the quest, they were all fleeting. She might not meet them again in her life. If she met them again, it would be fate. Minister. 2333 sounded confused. Who is Jingqing? Even if I know him or me, I don't have any memory. I don't know who you are talking about. Ning Shu did not force 2333 to admit that he was the official that Abyssal Prefect mentioned. As for who 2333 was and who he used to be, Ning Shu did not want to get to the bottom of it. It was just that 2333 was in a bad state. She had to repeat herself every time she spoke. I mean, don't touch soul stones and soul origin fluid. Those things are highly toxic. Also, will the main system really purify them? Ning Shu repeated. 2333, it will be purified. The main system will purify the soul power that mission takers obtain from completing missions and extract a portion of it. This portion of the soul power will be supplied to the army, so you can't be careless. Your soul stone will be purified. Ning Shu replied with an "oh," and the worry in his heart finally eased a little. He reckoned that the main system had a lot of venom to purify the soul force offered by so many people. Ning Shu prepared to go to Water City and Wood City to check on the city's enchantment. Although there was no tax, the two cities were under her control. If there were any problems, she would be the one to look for. First, he went to Water City, then to Wood City. Walking into Wood City, Ning Shu felt refreshed. The air in Wood City was too fresh and full of vitality. His soul felt very comfortable. Ning Shu strengthened the enchantment and then went to the city lord's mansion. He thought that he might as well sleep in the mansion. It was so comfortable here, even more comfortable than burning agarwood. Ning Shu arrived at the city lord's mansion and found that there was someone living in it. Ning Shu walked in and saw a woman who looked like Lin Daiyu sitting in a pavilion, looking at the lush flowers in the garden. Because of the law of wood, these flowers bloomed very well. Ning Shu was surprised. The woman saw Ning Shu and was even more surprised. She asked, "Who are you?" "And who are you?" Ning Shu asked. "This is not a place you should be. Please leave." The woman said with a straight face, "This is the city lord's mansion. It is not a place where an ordinary task taker like you can come." Ning Shu was speechless. "I know. This is my city lord's mansion now. Although I don't know who you are, please leave." Ning Shu said coldly. This woman probably did not know that the Law of Wood's incarnation had died in the war. It had been so long, yet she did not know. Nonsense. This is my big brother Wen's city lord's mansion. How could it become your city lord's mansion? Please leave. Otherwise. The woman took out a bean. Otherwise, I won't be polite to you. Ning Shu stared at the woman. This woman was actually a human and not a spiritual body? Without exception, all those who appeared here were spiritual bodies. Moreover, only super task takers could enter this place through trial missions. A human was actually in the city lord's mansion. From the looks of it, she and the Law of Wood's incarnation were lovers or husband and wife. The Law of Wood must have used some method to avoid punishment. In addition, it was the Law of Wood's incarnation. Therefore, no one in Wood City had discovered it. The woman stared at Ning Shu, sizing him up from head to toe. There was jealousy in her eyes. What is your relationship with Big Brother Wen? How could you enter the city lord's mansion? The woman bit her lip and looked at Ning Shu, her expression disappointed. Ning Shu was speechless. Ning Shu directly rolled up his sleeves, revealing the law imprint between his thumb and forefinger. I am the Law of Water's incarnation. I am the City Lord of Wood City. The woman looked as if she had been struck by lightning. What? Big Brother Wen actually gave you the law imprint? Ning Shu took a deep breath. He's dead, and I got the law imprint. I understand. What about you? Go back to where you came from. The Law of Wood's incarnation's actions were against the rules. No, that's impossible. He's so powerful. How could he die? The woman's face turned pale in an instant. She stared at the law imprint between Ning Shu's thumb and forefinger with a look of disbelief. It was as if she wanted to stare a hole in Ning Shu's hand. Although I don't know how you got here, this is really not a place you should be. Therefore please leave, Ning Shu said lightly. He thought that this was the world of the mission enforcers. He did not expect that there would be a woman in the city lord's mansion. Moreover, she had a body. The previous city lord was really bold. If he was discovered, he would most likely be punished. Impossible, impossible. Did you kill my big brother Rong? Otherwise, how could someone as powerful as him die? Impossible. Everyone in this city was respectful to big brother Rong. She had seen people sending him things more than once. Of course, she had secretly seen it. Big brother Rong said that this was a place for souls. She could only stay in this city lord's mansion and could not go out. Ning Shu instantly imagined a love story. The previous city lord had even taken the risk to bring a woman into the city of law. He had probably met this woman during a mission. After completing the mission, he would have to leave this world. It was basically impossible to meet her again, so he had brought her back. What method did he use? Chapter 24:15. If this woman stayed here, it might implicate her. After all, she was now the city lord of Wood City. If she was found to be hiding a woman, she would most likely be punished. Therefore, Ning Shu had to get rid of this woman now. What about my brother Rong? Did you kill him to steal his law of wood? The woman was extremely sorrowful. Tears seeped out of the corners of her eyes. She directly activated the bean in her hand. The bean quickly sprouted, and tender vines grew out. Ning Shu rolled over. Ning Shu was surrounded by a water barrier. The vines could not do anything to Ning Shu, let alone break the barrier. The woman gritted her teeth. She pulled out a crossbow and aimed it at Ning Shu. The crossbow shot out a short arrow. This crossbow was probably some kind of powerful tool. It directly broke through the barrier and shot towards Ning Shu's face. Ning Shu's face was cold. He stood still. The short arrow shot between his eyebrows. It spun, but it could not pierce through Ning Shu's forehead. Ning Shu stretched out her hand and held the short arrow. She threw the short arrow at the woman. The short arrow flew towards her at an extremely fast speed. The woman seemed to be stunned. She stood there without moving and did not react. However, just as the short arrow was about to hit her, her body was enveloped by a barrier. The short arrow hit the barrier with a ding sound and finally fell to the ground. Ning Shu raised his eyebrows. This woman had so many tools on her. Are you crazy? I didn't kill your lover. Ning Shu asked 2333 to directly notify the main system. There was a human hiding here. It was better to report it. When it was discovered, she would not be able to bear the consequences. 2333. If she keeps talking, just kill her. There's still a soul. Keep the soul. Do you still need to trouble the higher-ups to come? Ning Shu, it's illegal to enter the country. The higher-ups won't say anything even if you kill them. 2333 said directly. Even if the higher-ups come, the way to deal with it is to kill and enter the cycle of reincarnation. Ning Shu, kill her. You can have the soul. 2333 said shyly, if you want to give it to me, I can accept it. Ning Shu, it's better to inform the higher-ups to come out. As for whether this woman lives or dies, it has nothing to do with me. 2333, oh. When the woman saw Ning Shu staring at her with an indifferent gaze, she had a bad feeling. Brother Rong had said that she couldn't be discovered. If she was discovered, she would die. Without Brother Rong's protection, she wouldn't be able to move an inch. She wouldn't be able to live in this world full of souls. She felt that she wasn't good enough for Brother Rong. Brother Rong was so strong, and Brother Rong protected her from the wind and rain. She didn't expect that Brother Rong would die in front of her. Even the law of wood imprint had been taken away by someone. Was it this woman who took it away? The woman stared at Ning Shu with hatred in her eyes. Ning Shu just snorted in his heart. He didn't care about her hatred at all. As for the matter of the law of wood imprint, Ning Shu didn't even think about explaining it, nor did he feel like explaining it. He just needed to wait for the higher-ups to come and take this person away. What's with that look in your eyes? Are you looking down on me? The woman's heart was pierced by Ning Shu's gaze. The pain of losing the person she loved, and because she wasn't strong enough, she felt powerless in front of this new city lord. She couldn't take revenge for Brother Rong either. Ning Shu, you think too much. It was this kind of gaze, this kind of look of contempt. The woman said angrily, you think you're so great just because you're strong? Ning Shu nodded. I really like how you speak the truth. After working so hard for so long, she just wanted to hear others scold her. She always scolded her. You think you're so great just because you're strong? You think you're so great just because you're skinny? The woman was furious. What kind of person was this? You think you're happy just because you're strong? Wrong. You can't imagine the happiness of being strong. Ning Shu grinned. He felt great. It was as if people who stood at the top were all pitiful. The rich were pitiful and couldn't feel happiness. The strong were all pitiful. What kind of illusion was this? The woman. Ning Shu saw that the woman's eyes were red and she was looking at him with hatred. He was confused. Soon, people from the top arrived. They were from the military. There were 3 of them, and the leader was Mo Ming. Behind him were 2 men in military uniforms. Is it this woman? Mo Ming looked at the woman and asked the 2 soldiers to capture her. What are you doing? I know Brother Rong. The woman panicked and activated the seed. The vines wrapped around them. The 2 soldiers immediately took out their laser guns and wiped out the vines. Mo Ming didn't pay attention to the situation. He asked Ning Shu, how long has this woman been here? Ning Shu spread his hands and said, I didn't bring her here. She's the widow of the previous city lord. I only found her when I came here today. Mo Ming narrowed his eyes and turned to look at the woman who had been captured. The woman kept struggling. Her face was red and she shouted in panic, let me go, Brother Rong. The woman's tears fell, but the 3 men didn't care about her. They ignored her struggles. Mo Ming said coldly, if you struggle again, I'll kill you. When he spoke, he was full of murderous aura. The woman was so scared that she kept her mouth shut. She was dragged away by the 2 soldiers. Mo Ming was about to leave too. He said to Ning Shu, in the future, just kill her. Ning Shu. It was just as 2333 said. She was still a little cautious. Sometimes, the rules of the organization were too vague. It was impossible to figure out where the boundaries were. Ning Shu said, why dirty your hands? Isn't it good to have an organization to do it for you? She had also paid taxes, whether it was the power of the soul or the power of faith. Mo Ming was silent for a moment. That's true. In the end, the woman was taken away. If she was lucky, she might be sent to the world of reincarnation. If not, she would be purified and supplied to the organization. He couldn't keep this woman forever, could he? Ning Shu cleaned up the entire city lord's mansion, erasing all traces of the previous owner's life. Then, he lay comfortably on the bed and bathed in the rich vitality of Wood City. It was so comfortable. Ning Shu closed his eyes and slept. At the same time, he became more familiar with the rules of wood. He didn't know how long he slept. When Ning Shu woke up, he felt refreshed. He felt that his soul was full of vitality and strength. After leaving Wood City, Ning Shu went to the Dimensional City to learn the space rules. No matter what, he had to learn the space rules before he could enter the 2nd level. There were too many spaces in the Dimensional City. Ning Shu, who didn't have a good sense of direction and didn't have a good spatial thinking, resisted learning the space rules. But he couldn't help it. It was too painful. Chapter 24-21. The golden earthworm stared at Ning Shu with its tiny eyes full of hatred. I also want to ask you what you did and why you grew up to look like you. Ning Shu turned to look at the man with a bad face. How could it be? How could she look like this? When the man saw that Ning Shu had rejected his flower, he walked over and stepped on the golden earthworm's body with his bare feet. The golden earthworm vomited blood and cried as it vomited. It was heart-wrenching. What do you have to say to it? Woman, you dare to refuse my flowers. The man stared at Ning Shu arrogantly. Ning Shu's head was full of black lines. What the hell is this? The behavior of a domineering president makes people want to beat him to death. Ning Shu was annoyed to death now. A pocket-sized doll suddenly became big. Pai Lupi's side had an accident again. Ning Shu was too lazy to reason with him. You keep it for yourself. I specially left it for you, but you actually refused me. When I was still in the bud, I ate it sparingly. I just left a little for you. You still dare to dislike it. The man's face was very long. Looking at a face similar to his makes such an expression, Ning Shu simply wanted to die. No, thank you. Hurry up and eat by yourself. You let it go. I have something to say to it. I don't want to fight with you. It's fine if you copy my face, but you still want to tease me. A person who looks like me is teasing me. It's so damn shameful. You are a vicious woman. When I was still in the bud, you asked me every day when I would grow up. Now that I have grown up, you dislike me. The man was very angry and agitated. He stepped on the earthworm until it vomited blood. Get lost. Ning Shu roared, shaking the dust in the mine. The man's expression froze. He released his foot and stood in the corner with his head down. His expression could not be seen clearly. Ning Shu asked the earthworm, "What's going on?" "What else could it be? You've grown up. What did you do to grow up to look like you? Are you hiding something from me?" Earthworm's heart broke when he thought of the child's cruel behavior towards him when he grew up. It was as if the son that she had carefully raised was very unfilial. That was called heartache, despair, and helplessness. Previously, he was only the size of a thumb. Now, he had suddenly grown up and was much taller than her. Ning Shu only had one feeling in his heart, and that was that he was a troublesome fellow. Ning Shu changed the topic. "Anyway, we can't stay here anymore. Let's leave." The golden earthworm said, "No, I just want to die." As soon as it finished speaking, it encountered an invisible thread-like power that severed its body. Its body was cut into two, and golden blood spurted out. Things happened too suddenly. Ning Shu and the earthworm were both stunned for a moment, and then the earthworm wailed, "I really don't want to live anymore." Another wave of power directly cut the earthworm's body in half, and now its body had been cut into 4 pieces. Ning Shu looked at the man in the corner. "What are you doing?" The man grinned, revealing his white teeth. In the dim light, only his bright white teeth could be seen. "It already said that it wants to die." "I'm helping," said the man. Ning Shu was speechless. "Hurry up and reattach your body. There's still something important to do." Ning Shu said to the earthworm. She couldn't leave Nine Palace Mountain now, and the most important thing now was to figure out what was wrong with Nine Palace Mountain. She didn't want to be trapped in Nine Palace Mountain forever. The earthworm definitely wouldn't move, as if it was really dead. However, Ning Shu knew that the earthworm could split its body into several pieces and form several clones. "Stop talking. I just want to die. I don't have any attachment to this world anymore." The earthworm was weak, and its big eyes were filled with despair. Another wave of invisible power came. This time, Ning Shu was prepared and blocked the attack. She frowned and looked at the man. What kind of person was this? Ning Shu didn't have time to waste here. She said to the earthworm, "Do whatever you want. Anyway, I'm too lazy to talk to you. I'm leaving." She originally wanted to take the earthworm to find Pai Lupi, but the earthworm looked like it didn't want to live anymore. She was probably going to be trapped in Nine Palace Mountain until she died. If she couldn't get out, how was she going to do missions? How was she going to feed soul power to the world of reincarnation? How was she going to repair the world? Was she going to be a missing person in the organization in the future? Ning Shu turned and walked out of the mine. The man followed behind Ning Shu. Ning Shu looked back at him. "Do what you're supposed to do. Don't follow me. I have something to do." "I don't know what I'm going to do," the man said directly. "Can you give me a name? I don't even have one." "You can call yourself whatever you want." Ning Shu wasn't in the mood to care for her. A child was a child. An adult was an adult. He didn't have that much care for her. The man pulled a long face. "What exactly do you mean?" Ning Shu wiped her face and said in despair, "What do you mean?" "You're mine from now on," the man said. Ning Shu's face was expressionless. She chuckled. Because you saw my face and imitated my face, I'm yours? Otherwise, why would I look like you? Ning Shu said, you can look like an earthworm. The man said, it's too ugly. There are only two choices. I'll definitely choose the slightly better one. The earthworm, who had just weakly crawled out of the mine, was petrified when it heard this. It was like a bolt from the blue. Wah, I don't want to live anymore. The earthworm was shrouded in despair. As soon as it said this, its body was cut in half. Ning Shu said, it's just what it said. A person who really wants to die wouldn't cry out that they want to die. The earthworm stared at the man with resentful and hopeless eyes. Her mung bean-sized eyes were gray. The two of them walked down the same path. The earthworm lay on Ning Shu's shoulder and didn't say a word. It glanced at the man from time to time. This feeling was like you've tortured me 1,000,000 times, but I'll treat you like my first love. I'll forgive you no matter what. A father's love is as heavy as a mountain. The man pulled a long face. You have to give me a name. The golden earthworm immediately said, how about Liren? The man glanced at the earthworm. Who asked you? The earthworm collapsed on Ning Shu's shoulder. Despair enveloped its entire body. Ning Shu said, Liren is pretty good. I'm a man. How can I be called a beauty? The man wasn't satisfied. The earthworm said, it means indomitable spirit. A person is a person of people. Ning Shu said, oh, you can read? The earthworm said, I've always been thinking that Liren can be used by both boys and girls. A father's love was as deep as the sea. I don't want to be called this name. I don't want it. I want you to give me a name. The man pointed at Ning Shu and stubbornly insisted that Ning Shu give him a name. /BK. Chapter 24-22. Ning Shu said, apart from looking like me, this earthworm has always been protecting you. It's okay for him to give you a name. Don't be stubborn. The earthworm immediately looked at Ning Shu with tears in its eyes. I was wrong. You're a good two-legged monster. Okay, then do me a favor this time. When the time comes, search a place and find someone, Ning Shu immediately said. The earthworm snorted. Liren's expression kept changing. In the end, he reluctantly accepted the name and revived the earthworm. Liren asked Ning Shu, you don't like me. Should I like you? Ning Shu asked back. You have to like me because you're mine, Liren said rudely. The earthworm's heart was stabbed again. The baby that it had protected for so long had become someone else's. It silently cried, and its eyes squeezed out drop after drop of despair. Ning Shu returned to the city and asked for the address of the Li family. Fortunately, the Li family was a famous family in this area. It was the overlord of this area. It was no wonder that Pai Lupi always said that he was the second son of the Li family. After asking for directions, they went to the Li family. In any case, the Li family was the biggest and most glorious family here. Liren gave the bud to Ning Shu. Try it. It's very sweet. The earthworm's tears flowed even faster, like a broken string of pearls. I can't eat this kind of thing that hasn't been purified. Ning Shu directly refused. The golden thread grass absorbed soul origin liquid, and soul origin liquid was also poisonous. Therefore, Ning Shu didn't touch it. If it was contaminated, it couldn't be removed. Pai Lupi was a living example. Liren immediately said, it's pure, very pure nectar. It's very sweet. Ning Shu said, keep it for yourself. You don't have to please me. In fact, you have grown up and can do other things. You don't have to follow me. Liren had done this because he had taken her as his woman. First impressions were the strongest. It was the same as raising one's own livestock. You woman. Liren was infuriated. His eyebrows were raised, and his expression was fierce. If you don't eat it, I'll throw it away. Wah! The earthworm cried out. Ning Shu said, give it to him to eat. Consider it as repaying him for protecting you. Liren threw the flower to the earthworm. The earthworm immediately showed a gratified smile, like a simple father receiving a gift from his son. Then, he really began to lick the nectar from the flower bud. It's so sweet. It's so sweet. It's so sweet that it reaches my heart. The earthworm was good at it. Liren looked at Ning Shu. What do I have to do to make you like me? You're so rebellious. I've already looked like you, but you don't like me. Whoever I look like will be my partner in the future. Wah! The earthworm cried as he licked the nectar. But Ning Shu said, I'm afraid you're thinking too much. Then what do you think I should do? How can I find a wife with such a face? Liren questioned Ning Shu. Ning Shu's face suddenly fell. Are you saying that my face is so ugly that you can't find a wife? It's not that beautiful. I've received information that everyone likes good-looking people. Your face is not the most beautiful, Liren said honestly. Ning Shu was speechless. This was the second time someone had said that she was not good-looking. But she was not ugly. These people's taste was really high. Only a fairy beauty could be considered good-looking. Liren said again, you can do it. You're the ugliest. You're also the ugliest. Ning Shu could not be bothered with him. While they were talking, they had already arrived at the Li family. He directly released his spiritual power to scan the Li family's courtyard. The Li family's residence was built on a mountain. There was a long flight of stairs at the gate. These stairs were awesome. They were actually formed by piling up soul stones. The soul stones were ground into a specific shape and then inlaid to form the stairs. And there were quite a lot of stairs, stretching all the way to the mountain. There were at least a few hundred stairs. Ning Shu was speechless. This was the latest way to show off. Fuck, kneel down and worship the rich. Ning Shu squatted down and touched the soul stones. He really wanted to pry these soul stones away. His family was so rich. Pai Lupi lived like a poor illegitimate child. He lived in a small courtyard, had nothing and had to rely on farming to get rich. In the end, because he absorbed too many soul stones, he seemed to have been poisoned. What a tragic life. Ning Shu stepped on the stairs made of soul stones. He felt that his whole body had been sublimated. It was awesome. Liren curled his lips. This kind of soul stone is trash. Even if it was trash, no one would use it as a step. The two of them had not taken a few steps when someone came down the stairs. The Li family's servants surrounded Ning Shu and Liren. How dare you trespass into the Li family's residence? The leader said sternly. Ning Shu said, I'm looking for Pai Lupi. Please call him out. He owes me money. Nonsense. Pai Lupi is not in the Li family's residence. The leader held a weapon in his hand. If you don't get lost, don't blame the Li family for being ruthless. Liren next to him snorted and was about to make a move. Ning Shu stopped him and said to the leader, I'm Pai Lupi's partner. Now he's gone. He ran away after donating money, so I can only come to the Li family to find him. If the Li family can pay back the soul stones for him, I'll leave. The leader sneered and raised his chin. No one has ever dared to ask the Li family for a debt. It seems that you don't want to live. The Li family can help you. Ning Shu clicked his tongue and released his spiritual power to check the entire Li family. He shook his head and said, the Li family is too arrogant. Who will pay for my losses? Ning Shu's spiritual power was blocked. It seemed to be a boundary. It was estimated that many masters of the Li family felt Ning Shu's spiritual power and were attacking Ning Shu's spiritual power with their spiritual power. There is no second young master in the Li family, only one young master. The Pai Lupi you mentioned is probably swindling people in the name of the Li family. If he was cheated, why should the Li family be responsible? The leader said impatiently, you don't want to live anymore. Please inform them that I'm here to find young Master Li, Ning Shu said. He let the earthworm drill into the soil and check the entire Li family. Her spiritual power was blocked by the boundary and the masters of the Li family. She couldn't enter at all. It was estimated that the Li family had many masters. The earthworm slid down Ning Shu's body and drilled into the soil and disappeared. Liren didn't know what was the point of a woman talking endlessly. He just wanted to kill his way in. Why bother? But an eyesore earthworm was gone. Now he and she were alone. /BK Chapter 24-23. Liren stood beside Ning Shu and stared at her. Only then did he realize that he didn't know her name. What's your name? Ning Shu. Liren replied with an "oh." The leader of the Li family's guards saw that these two people actually ignored him and started chatting with each other. Are you provoking the Li family? Ning Shu asked in surprise. Can you represent the Li family? The leader's face suddenly turned ugly. Do it. Shut up. Say that again. Liren heard the buzzing sound in his ears and said sternly. The leader choked. For you. A man and a woman both wearing red clothes and looking alike. Could they be brother and sister? Brother and sister trying to blackmail the Li family? Did the Li family look so easy to bully? Ning Shu stretched out her vines and saw that these guards were tied up. She covered their mouths while she was at it. These guards didn't even have a chance to resist. Some of them were tied up and didn't even know what was going on. Ning Shu dragged a few guards and stepped on the steps made of soul stones. She was experiencing the life of a nouveau riche. A few guards were dragged by the vines. Moreover, it was a step. Their bodies were bouncing up and down. It was simply miserable. The leader of the guards was furious. He struggled with all his might but couldn't break free. His face turned red. She had been at the gate of the Li family for so long. It was impossible that no one had noticed her. However, no one came out. Obviously, they wanted to let these guards test her fighting ability. Didn't Pai Lupi know her? He had wanted to recruit her before. Now that she was here, he didn't recognize her? Was it because the clothes were red? Did he not recognize her after changing clothes? Ning Shu dragged a few servants up a few hundred steps and arrived at the gate. Grand Young Master Li was standing there with an awe-inspiring aura of righteousness around him. Behind him were several powerful old men. Eldest Young Master Li was a man with a strong desire for power. He wasn't very strong, but the people guarding him were all very strong. Perhaps Young Master Li felt that although he was not strong enough, he had great power. No matter how strong they were, they still had to protect him for all kinds of things and resources. Learning martial arts and selling himself to the imperial family. Young Master Li must have thought of himself as an emperor. Even iron itself was not hard. The Pai Lupi Gongzi Ning Shu cupped his hands and said, "Miss, we meet again. Please let my family's servants go. If they have offended you in any way, I will apologize on their behalf." Young Master. When the servants saw their young master like this, they all had tears in their eyes. They wanted to repay Young Master Li with their lives. It wasn't easy for him to be so approachable, and he was even able to win people's hearts at any time and place. Ning Shu said, "I didn't intend to embarrass these servants. I came here to find Pai Lupi. I went to find him, but his house collapsed. So, where is Pai Lupi? You mean my younger brother? I haven't seen him for a long time. Miss, I'm afraid you've asked the wrong person. Although there are some misunderstandings between us, I understand. He is no longer a threat to me. I don't need to kill him, and I can still leave a good reputation." Young Master Li seemed to be telling the truth. Speak. Why are you winking? Liren said to Young Master Li unhappily. Then she turned her head and said, "He winked at you frivolously. It's so disgusting." Young Master Li didn't feel embarrassed at all. Instead, he said, "A fair lady is a gentleman's mate." Liren asked Ning Shu, "What do you mean?" It's all right. I can only watch and can't do anything. I can't even have children. What's there to be happy about?" He probably saw that she had some strength and wanted to show his masculine charm to work for her. Ning Shu didn't want to beat around the bush with him. She still had to wait for the earthworm to come back. Where did the earthworm go? Why hadn't it come back yet? Could it be that the Li family was too big and she hadn't finished searching? If the earthworm didn't come out after a while, she would have to force her way in. She had to see if there was a Pai Lupi in the Li family. Ning Shu thought about it. She had to find Pai Lupi and ask him what had happened. Ning Shu had a bad feeling about the shaking of Jiugong Mountain. Could something have happened to the earthworm? However, the earthworm was still very venomous. If it was bitten, its soul would be contaminated. No one should be able to do anything to it. However, its efficiency was too low. Why hadn't it come out yet? She and Young Master Li had to keep talking here. Ning Shu didn't want to make a move unless she had no other choice. How tiring. Moreover, if Pai Lupi wasn't here, she would have fought for nothing. It was too tiring. Miss, do you want to go in and have a cup of tea? Young Master Li asked very elegantly. Ning Shu grinned, revealing her white teeth. Sure. They walked into the Li family's courtyard. The spiritual energy inside was very abundant. It was probably because of the array formation. Liren asked unhappily, "Why did we come in?" Ning Shu said, "If we didn't come in, wouldn't it be a waste? The Li family's tea must be good." In fact, Ning Shu was very impatient and anxious. She had tried several times, but she couldn't leave Jiugong Mountain. Jiugong Mountain had locked her in this world. In order to entertain you, of course, we have to bring out the best things to make you smile. Young Master Li said with a smile. He was very elegant. In addition, he was the heir of the Li family. He was a very attractive man. Ning Shu only wanted to say that he was a wolf pretending to be a saint. Li Ren looked at young Master Li expressionlessly. His expressionless face was exactly the same as Ning Shu's. Both of them stared at him with the same expression. Even young Master Li felt a little annoyed and a trace of displeasure flashed across his eyes. He was the heir of the Li family. His politeness wasn't genuine politeness. The normal reaction would be to treat him as an approachable person. The normal reaction should be to feel flattered and frightened. What kind of expression was this? Young Master Li was brought to the flower pavilion, where a maid brought over a cup of fragrant tea. Young Master Li immediately smiled and said to Ning Shu, "Have a taste of the spiritual tea grown in the Li's villa." He even took the lead and took a sip of the tea, indicating that there was no fraud. Liren took a sip of the tea and immediately spat it out. He said in disdain, "What the hell is this? It's so disgusting. It's so bitter. I thought it was sweet." Young Master Li, where did this bumpkin come from? However, the other party's matter-of-fact attitude made young Master Li unable to say anything. He could only smile awkwardly and ask Ning Shu to drink. Ning Shu asked directly, "Where is Pai Lupi? Call Pai Lupi out. I want to ask him a few questions." That bastard Pai Lupi ran away with his little lover and servant. He ran away with my hard-earned money. Where is he? /BK. Chapter 24-24. Young Master Li said helplessly, "You should know my relationship with my brother. I really don't know where he went, but it's normal for you to be cheated by him. He's that kind of person. Then can you compensate me on his behalf?" Ning Shu looked at young Master Li and asked, "He took away a lot of my soul stones and so much spiritual liquid. He cheated me of all my belongings. Can you compensate me?" Young Master Li, "Well, how much does he owe you?" Ning Shu complimented the Li clan. After doing some calculations, there are still so many spirit liquids. In total, there are more than 100,000 high-quality and pure soul stones. I think 100,000 soul stones is nothing to the Li clan. You even used soul stones to build stairs. Ning Shu complimented the Li clan. Where did the earthworm go? She couldn't have been caught, could she? She was tired of arguing here. It was a completely awkward conversation. Young Master Li heard Ning Shu's exorbitant demand and his eyes flashed with displeasure. An old man with a crooked back walked into the flower hall and whispered something in young Master Li's ear. Ning Shu clearly saw the surprise in young Master Li's eyes. He waved his hand and let the old man go out. He stood up and said to Ning Shu, "Sorry, something happened at home. I can't entertain you. As for the money you were cheated by my brother, the Li family will be responsible for finding him for you. You can ask him for the money. I can't entertain you." Ning Shu was almost instantly sure that the earthworm must have been caught. "Then can you arrange a room for me? I've never been to the Li family, so I'm going to stay here. It's the first time I've stayed in such a luxurious place." Young Master Li hesitated for a moment and asked the servant to arrange a room for Ning Shu. Although young Master Li's face was expressionless, his footsteps were hurried. Ning Shu knocked the servant out and set up a ward to cover himself and Liren. It was almost invisible. He followed young Master Li in front. Young Master Li followed the old man to a room. There was a cage in the room. The cage was closed and vibrating. Ning Shu scanned with his spiritual power and found that the cage was isolated from divine sense. He couldn't see what was inside. "This is a soul worm," young Master Li said. "Yes, it's golden in color, a rare sight in this world. Congratulations, first young noble," the old man said with a smile. "There will be a reward." Young Master Li wanted to open the cage but was immediately stopped by the old man. "Don't, young master. This insect is very powerful. Several servants who were bitten have gone crazy." "I see." Young Master Li was a little disappointed. "I wanted to see what a golden soul worm looked like." "You've actually been caught. Can't you show some promise?" Ning Shu said somewhat helplessly. He was simply a pig teammate. He was strong in the nest, but as soon as he came out, he would be instantly killed. What kind of setting was this? "Two-legged monster, save me!" Earthworm Ning Shu shouted. Ning Shu said, "Call me daddy." "Earthworm, I was caught by two-legged monster to help you. You can't do this to me. I trusted you so much. You're heartless, you're heartless." Earthworm was furious. "I know I can't trust two-legged monster." Ning Shu walked over and directly snatched the young master from Master Li's hands. Being caught off guard, Master Li looked around in horror. "Who is it?" Then he saw the cage disappear. He didn't know where it went. The invisible Ning Shu looked around the Li family's courtyard for a secret room to hold people. The Li family was in chaos. Grand young Master Li was so angry that he wanted to die. He didn't even get a chance to look at the soul worm before it was stolen. The entire Li family was in action, looking for the thief who had stolen their things. "Don't worry, young master. That cage has the consciousness of the little old man. I can lock their position," the old man said. Ning Shu looked at the cage. He didn't know where he opened it. He directly smashed it open and released the dying earthworm. Then he threw the cage into the pool. Young Master Li looked at the fish in the pool according to the old man's senses. "You mean the thief is in the water?" The little old man sensed it like that. The old man frowned. Young Master Li immediately ordered people to go into the water and fished out the cage that was about to fall apart. The scene was silent and very awkward. "Find him for me. Break him into pieces if you find him," young Master Li said while holding his breath. "What did you find?" Ning Shu asked weakly. "I didn't find the two men you said, but I found some women who were locked up." Earthworm said. "Women? Are they cultivation furnaces that were locked up?" Some cultivators or clans had the habit of keeping cauldrons for the purpose of harvesting yin to nourish yang for cultivation. "Did they wear clothes? Did they wear too little?" Ning Shu asked. As cultivation furnaces, they had to serve their masters at all times. Of course, they would wear whatever was convenient for them. Generally speaking, they would wear very little or nothing. "I have to think about it. I just took a quick glance and didn't pay attention." Ning Shu said, "What do I need you for?" "No, they wore clothes. Moreover, they wore hats on their heads. Their clothes were all the same. They were all gray and holding a string of beads in their hands." "Nuns? Why did the Li family catch nuns?" Ning Shu thought of the big guy. He was said to be raised by a nun. When she left, she handed the big guy to young Master Pai Lupi. He didn't know what happened while she was gone. Liren was expressionless. "Why did you find two men?" "No, to be precise, 3 men." Ning Shu retorted. This guy's nestling plot was really crazy. Liren was angry. "You are my woman. We are going to be together. How can you find other men?" Earthworm, so desperate. I want to cry again. Every time he heard the child he raised say something like this, his heart would hurt. Ning Shu let Earthworm take him to find the nuns. Earthworm complained, "You can clearly walk freely here. Why did you let me find them first? You even got me caught. The Li family is so big. It's too tiring to search every place. Since you found them, I don't need to search anymore. Don't you think I'm tired of drilling?" Two-legged monsters were indeed creatures that were used to ordering others around. These nuns were locked up in an underground prison. There were many guards at the door. The invisible Ning Shu brazenly walked past these guards and went to the cell where the nuns were locked up. "You are from Plum Shadow Nunnery, right?" Ning Shu asked. The nuns suddenly heard someone speak and looked around in surprise. Ning Shu said again, "Don't look around. You just need to answer me. I know the big guy." One of the nuns closed her eyes and whispered with her lips moving. It looked like she was chanting and praying. "We are from Plum Shadow Nunnery. For some reason, the Li family brought people to Plum Shadow Nunnery and captured us. /BK. Chapter 24-25. Do you know Mountain Gaze? Tell him to leave quickly and not come to save us. He can't afford to offend the Li family. Even the abbess was killed." The nun was a little anxious and her lips moved quickly. Was that big guy called Mountain Gaze? Ning Shu nodded and used his mental strength to check if there were any cages in the cell. However, he still heard the guards discussing how beautiful these nuns were and saying some dirty jokes. No matter what world they were from, when men gathered together like this, they wouldn't say anything good. Ning Shu focused on finding the secret room and the mechanism. Finally, he found a secret room through the stone wall. In this secret room, Li Si was tied to a pillar with iron shackles on his feet. He didn't see young Master Pai Lupi. He had forgotten that Pai Lupi was now a soul body. Ordinary methods couldn't trap him at all. Ning Shu found the mechanism and pressed it. He entered the secret room and removed the barrier. Li Si looked blankly at the two people descending from the sky. When he saw that one of them was Ning Shu, he cried, "Madam, please save young master." Why did he hear this sentence so often recently? Ning Shu asked, "What's the matter now?" Young master has been captured and is going to be made into a Dharma artifact spirit by the eldest young master. From then on, he will be controlled by others, Li Si said while crying. Ning Shu said, if he is made into a Dharma artifact spirit, it will contaminate the Dharma artifact. With such a poisonous soul, the Dharma artifact would definitely be contaminated if it was made into a Dharma artifact. Li Si said, "Madam." Ning Shu asked directly, "What happened?" Li Si wiped away his snot and tears as if he had found an organization. He recounted everything that had happened to Ning Cheng. The cause was actually the big guy that Ning Shu had brought back. The big guy wasn't obsessed with anything else, but he was very obsessed with spirit stones. Every day, he nagged Pai Lupi to compensate him with spirit stones. Pai Lupi was extremely annoyed. Coincidentally, at this moment, the Li family sent people over again. The leader was still the eldest son of the Li family. Pai Lupi felt that he shouldn't let his big brother see him like this, so he said to the big guy with a swollen face, "If you chase these people away, I'll compensate you with spirit stones." Then the big guy, who was also mountain gazing, really went out to chase them away. Of course, there was a conflict. Don't look at the mountain's honest appearance, and Ning Shu didn't fight back when he was beaten, but his strength was really strong. While fighting, he still said, "I didn't want to fight, Bodhisattva, please forgive me." In the end, he knocked them all to the ground and apologized to Bodhisattva. Eldest young master Li wanted to recruit Mountain Gaze for his own use since he was so powerful. Just like when he saw Ning Shu back then, he tried to recruit Mountain Gaze. He even asked where Mountain Gaze was from and who his family was. "If you work for me, you'll get a lot of spirit stones." Mountain Gaze said, "Wait, I have to ask Bodhisattva if he wants me to follow you." Anyway, he squatted at the side and muttered for a while. In the end, he said to eldest young Master Li, "Bodhisattva said that I can't go with you." Eldest young Master Li was speechless and felt that he had been fooled. He took out a powerful spirit weapon and broke the barrier of the small house, blasting the entire house into pieces. Caught off guard, Li Si and Pai Lupi were captured. Pai Lupi's soul was even taken into a Dharma artifact that specialized in carrying souls. Li Si, who was captured, asked Mountain Gaze to find his grandaunt. Only she could save them. Li Si asked, "Did Mountain Gaze find you?" Ning Shu rubbed his head. "You two are really troublesome master and servant. I didn't see Mountain Gaze. I only found this place when I saw the house turn into ruins. Didn't I give you the emerald green water? How could you still be captured?" "Young master, you put it away solemnly." The house was suddenly blasted open by a spirit weapon and the items were no longer with you. "Do you know about those nuns?" Ning Shu asked the imprisoned people outside. "What nuns?" From the looks of it, Li Si did not know about nuns. In that case, these nuns must have been used by the Li family to threaten Mountain Gaze. Did eldest young Master Li want to take in all the experts in the world as his subordinates? It didn't matter if he didn't agree when he saw powerful people being recruited. There were plenty of ways to make them compromise. You're just a servant. Why didn't he kill you? Ning Shu asked in surprise. Li Si said, Grandaunt, when refining an artifact spirit, if the artifact spirit is too stubborn, it won't be easy to refine. At that time, you have to destroy the artifact spirit's mind and faith. I grew up with young Master. If you kill me in front of young Master, it will more or less affect young Master's mind and make it easier to refine. Ning Shu acknowledged. It was a little cruel to use a soul as an artifact spirit. He felt that young Master Pai Lupi hated his younger brother. Hehe, humans are so cruel. They can even use such a method to torture people who are related by blood, Earthworm said mockingly. Li Si saw Liren standing beside Ning Shu and asked, Is this your brother? No, I'm her man. We look like husband and wife, Liren corrected him with a sullen face. Ning Shu was speechless. He couldn't be bothered to explain. All right, I won't save you. When eldest young master wants to refine artifacts and kill you, I'll save you and that fool Pai Lupi. The most important thing now was to leave the Nine Palace Mountain. Why had the Nine Palace Mountain closed? Even she couldn't go out. Ning Shu walked out of the secret chamber and saw these nuns. Eldest young Master Li's desire for power was simply abnormal. No one was willing to use such a method to threaten others. It was simply speechless. Why do you care about these people? Let's leave. Liren said unhappily, I don't like these people. I also don't like you to meddle in other people's business. Ning Shu said, My money. Ning Shu couldn't leave the Nine Palace Mountain. She couldn't find a way out. Moreover, time passed slower in the Nine Palace Mountain than outside. So she could only save people first. She had to stabilize her foundation in the Nine Palace Mountain. Liren asked, Why do you like those things so much? Because I need them. Ning Shu shrugged. If she didn't need them, why would she go through so much trouble to collect these things? Did she eat too much and have nowhere to digest them? Ning Shu hid in the Li family. The Li family's servants and guards were searching the entire Li family, but they couldn't find anyone. Eldest young Master Li was very angry. If he didn't catch the soul worm before, it would be fine. But he caught one and it was golden. Suddenly losing it was really heartbreaking. He was most afraid of having it before. If he obtained the golden soul worm, he would be able to explore the soul stone mines. Those hidden mines that hadn't been excavated would all belong to the Li family. Ning Shu tried to open the black hole again and again to leave the Nine Palace Mountain. But no black hole appeared. She felt that the Nine Palace Mountain had been sealed and even she couldn't leave. But what was the Nine Palace Mountain trying to do? Or more accurately, what was the Nine Palace Mountain trying to do? /BK. Chapter 24-26. Ning Shu still didn't know if the Nine Palace Mountain was a heavenly Tao or a world with a heavenly Tao. Why did they trap her, an outsider, here? Was she going to be schemed against by the heavenly Tao again? Otherwise, why did they seal the world and lock her up in the world? It was simply hopeless. Liren asked Ning Shu, What do you like? Ning Shu, Soul Stone. Liren. What's your favorite? Ning Shu, Soul Stone. Liren. Shouldn't you like me the most? Why do you water me every time you come? Ning Shu, if I knew you would look like this, I wouldn't have watered you. I would have just pinched the flowers. Liren. What a vicious woman. Earthworm, you actually did so many things behind my back. No wonder he grew up to look like you. You are so shameless. Liren looked at Earthworm and said, Even if she didn't do these things, I wouldn't have grown up to look like you. Earthworm was dejected. The Li family's residence had been searched many times, but they didn't find anything. This made young Master Li very unhappy. He also heard from the servants that Ning Shu had disappeared and felt that it was that woman who had snatched his soul worm. While young Master Li was unhappy, a thunderous roar sounded from the gate of the Li family. Li family bastard, let go of my ants. From the voice, it should be that big guy Wangshun. Young Master Li's mouth twitched. I was waiting for you. I didn't have a place to vent my anger. This hothead happened to bump into me. If I don't teach him a lesson, he won't know how powerful the Li family is. Even if he wants to follow me, I will break his bones. Therefore, he brought a few experts to the gate. Ning Shu also decided to go to the gate to watch the show. Wang Shan held the saber tightly in his hand. His hand was trembling slightly and there were tears in his eyes. He stared at young Master Li with hatred. You killed the abbess and imprisoned my aunts. You have committed a heinous crime. You're just a bumpkin who grew up in a nunnery. I recruited you because I thought highly of you. I caught these nuns because I wanted you to work for me. However, those nuns didn't know what was good for them and resisted with all their might. Pai Lupi was in a bad mood and was no longer in the mood to pretend to be virtuous. Mountain Gaze grabbed the broadsword and tears welled up in his eyes. He wiped them with the back of his hand. The abbess and the ants said that good and evil will be repaid in this world. There is no need to use blood to wash away hatred. But this is different from what the ants said. Ning Shu watched from the side and frowned. He looked at Mountain Gaze helplessly and felt that this had something to do with him. She met Mountain Gaze and beat him up. Mountain Gaze insisted that she compensate him with spirit stones. In the end, he was brought to Pai Lupi's small courtyard. In the end, he got entangled in the Li family's matters. Young Master Li looked at him again. In order to make him behave, he captured these nuns. After all, Mountain Gaze had no power or influence. He was just an orphan who grew up in a nunnery. I will definitely take revenge for the abbess and the dead ants. Bodhisattva Guan Zizai. Mountain Gaze recited a sutra and then opened his eyes. He raised his broadsword and slashed at young Master Li. Gusts of whirlwind surrounded the broadsword, and the wind blew past. A huge force broke through the ground, and a huge attack was launched towards young Master Li. The huge attack caught everyone off guard. Young Master Li couldn't dodge in time and was pulled away by the experts beside him. Only then did he avoid being hit by the attack. However, the attack didn't stop and directly blasted open the Li family's gate. With a bang, the gate collapsed. There was a ravine on the ground that had been destroyed. When young Master Li saw such an attack, he was both terrified and happy. He had almost been beaten to death and turned into a soul like his younger brother. He was happy because if this person could completely become his subordinate, his strength would definitely be powerful. Young Master Li had mixed feelings about these powerful people. He was both envious and jealous. Enslaving these experts would comfort him a little, since he couldn't become an expert. So what if he became an expert? He still had to listen to him, a person who couldn't become an expert. Young Master Li hated his younger brother because he had been nagged by the elders at home since he was young. He hated this feeling of competing with his younger brother who had talent. Young Master Li's body trembled slightly. He was both excited and terrified. When Mountain Gaze saw him dodge, he didn't have a chance to attack him again. The experts beside young Master Li hurriedly protected him. A few people surrounded Mountain Gaze. Mountain Gaze kept chanting. If one listened carefully, they would realize that it was a sutra. How unique! Was he chanting sutras to eliminate his sins while fighting? Mountain Gaze was crying as he fought. He was still chanting sutras, severely injuring a few experts. One of them was even killed and turned into a soul. When young Master Li saw Mountain Gaze coming towards him, his pupils constricted. The aura made him feel a little timid. He had the strength to pick up mountains and an unparalleled aura. Moreover, the other party was very burly and had a strong body. Young Master Li swallowed a mouthful of saliva and immediately said, "Your ants are still in my hands. If you kill me, I will kill all of them." "How dare you?" Mountain Gaze stopped in his tracks. "Aren't you afraid of retribution?" "Retribution?" Young Master Li laughed disdainfully. He had done many things, but he had never received any retribution. Mountain Gaze had just entered the Jianghu and his worldview had been washed away. The reality was different from what the abbess and ants had said. Bad people never received retribution. Why did good people like the abbess and ants meet with misfortune? The incident at the entrance had already alarmed the Li family. Some people who were in seclusion came out and rushed to the entrance. The elders questioned young Master Li, "Li Ji, what's going on?" Li Ji's expression was a little ugly as he said, "It's fine. I can settle it immediately." "What do you mean it's fine?" "The entrance was smashed by someone. This has never happened before. If you can't do a good job, don't be the head of the Li family." The elders bluntly reprimanded young Master Li, making him feel very embarrassed. If such a thing had happened to his younger brother, the elders would only protect him and would not reprimand him at all. Because his cultivation talent was not good, these elders did not treat him well. If his younger brother had not become a soul, these old bastards of the Li family would probably have made him the head of the family. "Let go of my ants, or I will destroy the Li family." Mountain Gaze gritted his teeth and said, he had probably never done such a thing before, and it went against his beliefs. He appeared very nervous. Destroy the Li family? What arrogance! The expert of the Li family snorted coldly as a huge pressure surged towards him. Ordinary people would vomit blood or kneel down from this pressure. They used pressure to attack one's confidence, but Mountain Gaze was completely unaffected by the pressure. /BK. Chapter 24-27. Mountain Gaze was disdainful of the pressure. It could even be said that he did not feel anything because his expression did not even change. When the elders of the Li family saw this situation, they could not hold it in any longer. They turned to the Li family's eldest young master and asked in an unpleasant tone, "Where did this come from? Quickly send him away." "Fourth Grandpa, it will be dealt with very soon. You can go back." The Li family's eldest young master took a deep breath and said, he was not a servant who spoke to him in such a tone. Because he was not strong and his spiritual root was not good, he could not cultivate to become an expert. Therefore, he was ordered around like a dog. He was the future head of the Li family. When Ning Shu saw the Li family's expression, he seemed to have been humiliated until his face turned red. This man had an inferiority complex and was proud of himself. He was able to interpret an ordinary matter into a different meaning. Mountain Gaze held the saber tightly and shouted as he attacked the Li family. The two sides fought again. Mountain Gaze's strength seemed to have no bottom line. He became stronger when he met the strong. Even when he was fighting with a group of experts from the Li family, he was not at a disadvantage. He fought while crying and chanting Buddhist scriptures. He was multitasking. Ning Shu was speechless. Therefore, the fool who had been beaten by her back then and had not fought back was actually so powerful. Ning Shu allowed the two sides to fight without interfering. Then he decided to go to the prison and save the nuns. Anyway, he was invisible with the enchantment. Ning Shu floated to the front of the prison and whispered to the nuns, "I'll save you now. I'll wrap you up with the enchantment. Mountain Gaze has come to save you." The nuns' expressions changed drastically, especially when they heard that Mountain Gaze had come. A beautiful nun hurriedly asked, "Did Mountain Gaze use his strength?" "How can you not use your strength in a fight?" Ning Shu asked in return. "Could there be something special about Mountain Gaze? Please save us. Mountain Gaze can't use his strength." The nuns begged Ning Shu. Although Ning Shu didn't understand, he still used a barrier to wrap all the nuns. Then he shrunk the barrier, allowing the bubble-like barrier to float out of the cell and float behind Ning Shu. Ning Shu asked Liren, "What do you think is special about Mount Gaze?" "You're quite strong." Liren casually said, "I don't like you looking at others. Why can't you look at me? I'm your future husband." Ning Shu slapped the back of his head. "To me, you're my son with my face. I don't want to face my own face every day. If you were someone else, would you like yourself and fall in love with yourself?" Liren looked down at Ning Shu and asked with his arms crossed. Ning Shu covered his mouth and laughed. "I don't even dare to think about it. How can I be so lucky? So, you now have a chance to fall in love with yourself. It's with me. Are you excited?" Liren pointed at his face. Ning Shu looked away, not wanting to look. Liren was speechless. "Woman, didn't you say that falling in love with yourself is a wonderful thing that you don't even dare to think about?" Liren chattered nonstop. Earthworm lay on his shoulder and listened, feeling desperate and helpless. Ning Shu faced the barrier bubble and arrived at the entrance. The nuns in the barrier saw the intense battle at the entrance. Furthermore, Mountain Gaze was getting braver and braver as she fought. She was simply a brave and good general under the command of tens of thousands of soldiers. Mountain Gaze, stop fighting. The nuns slapped the barrier, but it isolated the sound. Mountain Gaze couldn't hear their voices at all. Mountain Gaze, enough. A voice exploded in the air like thunder in everyone's ears. The weak people were directly knocked unconscious by this voice, and the strong people were also in a daze. With a pop sound, Ning Shu's enchantment barrier was broken by a force, and the nuns inside the enchantment fell out. Hence, Mountain Gaze was pleasantly surprised when she saw the nuns. Ning Shu slowly landed on the ground and looked at the floating man. Patriarch, you're out of seclusion? When the experts of the Li family saw this man, they immediately knelt down. Do you really think no one will notice if you travel through the Li family without anyone else? The Li family's patriarch said coldly as he looked at Ning Shu. Ning Shu spread his hands. He didn't expect the Li family to have such an expert. Young Master Li was knocked unconscious because he was weak. When he woke up and saw the powerful patriarch, he also knelt down and pointed at the earthworm on Ning Shu's head. Patriarch, she stole the Li family's soul worm. Ning Shu was speechless. Bah, what a shameless two-legged monster. The earthworm crawled into Ning Shu's collar. Ning Shu twisted it out and stuffed it into Liren's collar. The earthworm immediately revealed an infatuated expression. It finally got close to Liren and was still in his chest. Liren despised it and wanted to throw it away. It looked too disgusting. The Li family's patriarch's gaze locked onto Ning Shu. Ning Shu raised his head and looked straight at him. He narrowed his eyes and leaned slightly towards Liren. He said to the earthworm, "Does this man look like the person guarding the secret room where we found the golden thread grass?" That man had already been turned into a lunatic by the earthworm. These two people looked a little similar. Could that person also be from the Li family? If that was the case, then this enmity was a bit big. However, the other party didn't seem to know. The earthworm poked its head out of Liren's collar and looked carefully for a while. I don't know. The situation was so urgent. How could I remember? Yes, their auras are very similar, Liren said with a gloomy face. You remember? Ning Shu and the earthworm both stared at Liren. I was just sleeping. I'm not retarded. Also, that person wanted to eat me. Liren stared at the middle-aged man floating in the air. At least the cultivation method is the same. Ning Shu and the other two whispered to each other as if no one else was around. Young Master Li gritted his teeth and said, "This woman has a lot of spirit liquids on her, and also a treasure that can accelerate the growth of heavenly materials and earthly treasures." Li Xiang earned countless soul stones with her help. Ning Shu, where are the countless soul stones? Ning Shu shrugged indifferently. I have treasures. What does it have to do with you if I have spiritual liquid? You want to kill me and steal my treasures? You have to see if you have the ability to do so? Liren immediately clapped and laughed. Yes, my wife has good things. It's none of your business. The earthworm, I feel terrible. I want to cry. Thence. Mountain Gaze saw his aunts and stopped fighting. He quickly knelt in front of the nuns. It's all because of me. It's all because of me that you encountered such a thing. Mountain Gaze, you can't use your power. Do you know that? We deserve this calamity. It's none of your business. Mountain Gaze, the abbess said that you can't use your power. /BK. Chapter 24-28. This power will make you lose your mind. Recite more scriptures when you're impulsive, the nuns advised Mountain Gaze. Mountain Gaze was holding back his anger. This anger made him very restless and desperate. Ants, you said that evil people will be destroyed by the heavens. Why is it different? It's just that the time hasn't come. I believe that the heavens will destroy those evil people. But good people always die in front of evil people. Is this how you comfort yourself? Mountain Gaze's worldview was collapsing. Don't think that way, Mountain Gaze. Everyone has their own fate. The ants were agitated. Quickly recite with me. Then, Mountain Gaze sat cross-legged and recited scriptures with the nuns. Ning Shu was rendered speechless. This was a strange scene. The Li family's patriarch seemed to have never received such cold treatment. These people were either whispering together or sitting on the ground reciting scriptures. Should he knock on them with a wooden fish? Call out the soul worm and the treasures that can promote the growth of natural treasures. Then I'll forgive you for offending the Li family, the patriarch said indifferently. Ning Shu said, these two things don't belong to your Li family, right? Indeed, they don't belong to the Li family. These are your compensation. The Li family has been standing for so many years, but no one has ever died well after offending the Li family. Bullying the weak is not called being strong, Ning Shu said. Wrong. The Li family's strength is obtained through countless sweat and tears. Why should we accept the offense of the weak? Otherwise, all our sweat would have been in vain. Our Li family's strength is obtained through tireless cultivation. What's the logic of compromising with the weak when we have strength? The patriarch said coldly. Liren turned to Ning Shu and said, that sounds reasonable. Then, he said to the patriarch, I'm stronger than you. Can I kill you? Don't say that I'm bullying the weak at this time. Liren twisted his neck and prepared to attack. I can use you to atone for my sins. Although you're not that person who asked you to be related to him. I'm going to kill someone. Aren't you going to give me your blessings? Liren pursed his lips, closed his eyes and asked for a kiss. Ning Shu punched him in the face. Get lost. Liren touched his face. What a heartless woman. Mountain Gaze opened his eyes and stared at Ning Shu in shock. Every time he saw this woman, she would beat someone up. He wasn't hitting him, but someone else. Ning Shu glanced at Mountain Gazing. What are you looking at? Thank you for saving my ants. Mountain Gaze scratched his head and said, I don't want you to compensate me with spirit stones. I'll help you recite a sutra and increase your longevity, said Mountain Gaze. Ning Shu. She had played this trick a long time ago. He recited scriptures for others and changed their diets. Liren glared at Mountain Gaze. Don't get close to my woman. Mountain Gazing scratched his head. I chanted the sutra and didn't approach. The Li family's patriarch wanted to rub his head. These people were causing trouble again. Did they take the Li family seriously? There were so many people in the Li family, yet they were just watching a few people cause trouble. Enough! The patriarch roared like thunder. Liren dug his ears. What are you shouting for? Do you think your voice is loud? Liren shouted at the top of his lungs. Immediately, sand and rocks flew everywhere. Even the floor tiles were lifted up one by one. Even the sky and earth darkened. Ning Shu looked up at the sky. The sky was dark. Ning Shu stared at Liren's back. Why did the heavenly Tao give birth to Liren? There had to be something special about the heavenly Tao. The role of the bricks was to build walls, and the role of the tiles was to shelter from the rain. What was Liren's role? Such a person would not be born for no reason. Furthermore, he had not cultivated and had great talent and strength. Mountain Gaze's face looked very young, but he was very strong. According to the nuns, this guy's body was still hiding power. Ning Shu was sure that the heavenly Tao wanted to do something, but he didn't know what to do. She just wanted to go out. Could it be that the heavenly Tao wanted to trap her and bury her with this world? The Li family was a drop in the ocean to the entire world. Could it be that the heavenly Tao wanted to cause waves from the Li family and then this wave would affect the entire world? While Ning Shu was thinking, Liren had already charged towards the Li family's patriarch. His attacks were unpredictable, and even the Li family's patriarch found it difficult to deal with. However, the Li family's patriarch was not a simple person. After entering the Nine Palace Mountain to train, he did not directly enter the second level. Instead, he established his own family on the first level. The Li family was getting stronger and stronger. The attacks of the two dazzled everyone. They could not even understand each other's moves and attacks. A fight between experts. Ning Shu said to Mountain Gaze, "Take your ant and leave quickly." "All right." Mountain Gaze immediately wanted to take the nuns away. Young Master Li snorted coldly. No one can leave today. As he spoke, he got someone to activate the mountain protecting array. He wanted to catch a turtle in a jar. The Li family's elders and powerful elders surrounded Mountain Gaze and Ning Shu, not intending to let them go. No one can leave after offending the Li family. Otherwise, how can the Li family establish itself? Young Master Li sneered. Ning Shu said, I'm afraid you're retarded. You relied on some small tricks to become the successor of the family head. If you're not strong enough, who would care about a future successor like you? Young Master Li's face contorted. He was most concerned about this matter. When this woman said it out loud, it was as if the most secret thing in his heart had been exposed. He was flustered and furious. I'll tear your mouth apart. Young Master Li said sternly to the expert guarding beside him, capture her. I want to refine her into an artifact spirit and enslave her forever. The expert guarding beside young Master Li frowned, but he still followed his instructions and rushed towards Ning Shu. He held a gourd-shaped Dharma artifact that stored souls in his hand. Next, was it going to say, I'll call you? Do you dare to respond? The gourd was opened, and something similar to a black hole appeared inside. It was about to suck Ning Shu's soul in. Ning Shu stretched out his vines and wrapped them around the man and the gourd. The gourd landed in Ning Shu's hand. Ning Shu placed the gourd by his ear and shook it. When he heard the sound of water shaking inside, he shouted at the gourd, Pai Lupi, fool, are you inside? Since it was used to store souls, second young Master Li should be inside. Pai Lupi, fool, are you answering from inside? My name is Li Xiang, not Pai Lupi, fool. Young Master Pai Lupi's voice came from the gourd. Can you come out? Ning Shu asked. No, there's an array formation inside. I'm trapped, Li Xiang said. What a piece of trash. Young Master Li cursed in his heart. This was an expert under his command, but he was trapped in one move. Even his Dharma artifact had fallen into the enemy's hands. /BK. Chapter 24-29. Young Master Li looked back and forth between Ning Shu and Wang Shan. Why couldn't he have a subordinate like this who was loyal to him to the death? His status in this family would also be high. Those who could be used by him were all dabblers. They were all here for the Li family's offerings and resources. When something really happened, none of them could withstand it. Even if you get the Dharma artifact, release my brother. Without Master's orders, the gourd will not release him, young Master Li said coldly. Why did she have to save Li Xiang? What was so good about Li Xiang? It wasn't that he was more talented, but he had already become a soul body. Why did this woman still not give up on him? Ning Shu shook the gourd and said to young Master Li, Oh, then please release him. What benefits did Li Xiang give you? I can give you double. Young Master Li gritted his teeth and was very unconvinced. I can give you whatever he can give you. I can even give you more. Why can't you give up on him? Young Master Li was jealous of these people who could cultivate and become powerful, but he also hoped that these experts could be used by him to increase his confidence. Ning Shu was a little surprised. She thought that they had already fallen out. She did not expect young Master Li to still insist on recruiting her. Was there really no problem? She and Pai Lupi were fools. It was not a matter of who would submit to whom. They were using each other. Both of them were free. It was not like what young Master Li thought, waiting to serve him at any time like a servant. She had a lot of things to do. How could she have the time to protect him 24 hours a day and earn some trivial resources? Ning Shu said, I'm willing to cooperate with Li Xiang. I don't want to cooperate with you. It's my business who I cooperate with. How could he force her? She did not want to argue with a fool. She always felt that young Master Li thought that the Li family was amazing and that it was an honor to be loyal to the Li family. He was thinking too much and thought too highly of himself. Ning Shu didn't allow young Master Li to let the people out. Instead, he dropped a drop of water into the gourd. As the water entered the gourd, it turned into an ocean. More and more water flowed into the gourd, creating a raging wave. Kacha, kacha, the surface of the gourd was full of cracks. Finally, it exploded into pieces with a bang. Everything had a limit to how much power it could withstand. Once that limit was exceeded, it would collapse. More and more water formed a huge pressure, causing the gourd to collapse. The water inside gushed out like a torrential flood. Ning Shu pointed his finger and the water instantly disappeared without a trace. It was as if the flood from before was just an illusion. The souls in the gourd were released. The gourd didn't only contain Pai Lupi's soul, it also contained a few other souls. Suddenly seeing the light of day, he was still a little dazed. In the end, he glared at young Master Li with hatred. Li, of course, nothing good awaited these captured souls in the gourd. Ning Shu watched from the side. Young Master Li had more and more enemies now. These souls all charged towards young Master Li. They looked like they wanted to tear him into pieces. Stop them. Let their souls scatter. Young Master Li laughed coldly. They were just a bunch of rogue cultivators, yet they dared to be so arrogant. The people beside young Master Li pounced on the souls. Ning Shu's mouth twitched. Before, he felt that this young Master Li had a strong desire for power. Now, he realized that he really relied on the Li family to do whatever he wanted. He gave up on treatment. There was always a taller mountain. The Li family might be strong, but there was someone stronger. Ning Shu looked up at the battle between the Li family ancestor and Liren. The Li family ancestor was worried that the Li family was below, so he fought in midair to avoid the shockwaves from the battle affecting the Li family members and the house. Liren was probably born not long ago, so he wasn't very familiar with fighting. It seemed like he was just practicing, but he was still able to fight to a draw with the Li family ancestor. Such people who were born with powerful abilities weren't favored by the heavens, but because there was a mission for them to complete. Ning Shu didn't feel jealous at all. There was no such thing as a free lunch. Even if there was a free lunch, it could be poisonous. With his strength, even if the heavens wanted to scheme against him, he was sure that they could do so. Mountain Gaze and the nuns were surrounded by the Li family. Mountain Gaze wanted to attack, but the nuns held him back, preventing him from doing so. Chant the scriptures with us. Don't attack. Ning Shu was speechless. There was such a godly operation. Mountain Gaze really had no choice. He chanted the scriptures with the nuns, but the Li family wouldn't let them off so easily. However, these nuns didn't let Mountain Gaze attack. They would rather be beaten until they vomited blood and collapsed in front of him. Mountain Gaze's face was ferocious. He had no choice but to stand up with his saber to fight. Sit down. A beautiful nun shouted at Mountain Gaze sternly. Mountain Gaze was conflicted and had no choice but to sit down and chant the scriptures. These nuns' cultivation levels could only be considered average. They weren't as strong as the Li family's guardian elder. A casual spell had severely injured these nuns. They had no way to resist at all. Even so, these nuns still didn't let Mountain Gaze attack. As they vomited blood, they told Mountain Gaze not to attack. Ning Shu was dumbfounded. Why were they so insistent on not letting Mountain Gaze attack? What kind of power did Mountain Gaze have? Even if he didn't have consciousness, the situation was critical now. Why didn't he use his power? Was he waiting for others to kill him? These nuns were really... Mountain Gaze, who was chanting the scriptures, was suffocating. He watched the heavily injured nuns collapse in front of him. These people he regarded as his family didn't allow him to attack. This made it easier for him to lose his mind. Seeing these people treat the people he cherished and cared about at will and remain unmoved, he would probably turn evil faster. A nun fell in front of Ning Shu's feet and vomited blood. She reached out and grabbed Ning Shu's skirt. She begged Ning Shu, "Please take Mountain Gaze away. I beg you." Ning Shu was expressionless. No. The nun's expression froze. Ning Shu said, "Isn't it good to let him take you away? Why can't he use his own strength?" If he held it in, the backlash would be even greater. Instead of being aggrieved like this, it was better to be more straightforward. So what if he lost his mind? It was fine if he didn't have strength, but if he endured it even though he had strength, it would be even more harmful to his mind. If he didn't even have the courage to face the enemy, what was the use of strength? Look at how righteous the Li family's patriarch was when he snatched someone else's things. The nun vomited blood and said, "You can't do this. You can't. Once Mountain Gaze uses that kind of power, he will become a lunatic without consciousness." Even if all of them died, Mountain Gaze couldn't use his own strength. /BK. Chapter 2430. Ning Shu frowned and reluctantly agreed. "All right, if you're all dead, I'll leave with him." Although the words were unpleasant, the nun was still very grateful to Ning Shu and fainted. Mountain Gaze was so anxious that he cried. As he wiped his tears, he recited the scriptures. The beautiful nun opposite him said sternly to Mountain Gaze, "Be serious. Recite seriously." Ning Shu really felt that these nuns were crazy. Did they think it was noble to sacrifice themselves to let Mountain Gaze live? They clearly knew how important these people were to Mountain Gaze, but they wanted him to be indifferent. This was more painful than Mountain Gaze's life. It was difficult for such a big guy like Mountain Gaze to sit cross-legged on the ground and cry like a dog. Ning Shu didn't look at the nun. Instead, he looked at the battle situation in the sky. The patriarch had taken out some powerful spirit weapon and directly slashed Liren's arm. As soon as Liren was injured, the sweet smell of fruit emitted. Ning Shu sniffed. What kind of natural treasure had matured? Ning Shu was now traumatized by those high-profile and very fragrant natural treasures. This was because this kind of ostentatious treasure was a trap. Life was full of traps. Liren covered the wound tightly to prevent the blood from flowing out. However, the blood still flowed through the gaps between his fingers. The Li family's patriarch also smelled this smell and was a little bewildered. In the end, he confirmed that the fragrance was emitted from his opponent's body. After thinking for a long time, the corners of his mouth curled up into a smile. The experienced and knowledgeable patriarch immediately realized that he might have encountered a rare treasure fruit that could take human form. If he caught it, it would be very precious, whether it was for alchemy or bloodletting. He was clearly sitting at home, but the treasure had automatically come to his home. Why should the Li family obtain such a peerless treasure? To be precise, Liren was indeed a kind of fruit that grew in a bud. The patriarch was very excited. If he caught such a thing, he would be powerful and could increase his combat strength. He could also obtain a walking natural treasure. It would be very convenient for him to take blood. The old ancestor's attacks were getting more and more powerful. He was using a magical artifact to trap him. Ning Shu saw that Liren's situation wasn't very good. He floated to Liren's side and asked, "Why didn't you call me when Dingyi didn't stay?" Liren covered his wound and healed it in the shortest time possible. A good man never says no. Ning Shu pursed his lips. How did he become a shameful domineering Xiao by sleeping all the time? As soon as he got close to Liren, Ning Shu smelled something sweet. "It's the smell of your body." "I hate this smell. I want to be full of manliness." Liren was a little annoyed. This kind of fragrance would bring a lot of trouble. "So you're saying that you're a heavenly treasure? Is your blood worth a lot of money? Let's sell it in the future," Ning Shu said. "Liren, other than that, is there nothing else in your mouth?" Liren asked. Ning Shu shook his head. Ning Shu realized that Liren was a troublesome character. Following this kind of person who was loved by the heavens, the unlucky ones were usually the people around him. The old ancestor stared at Ning Shu. He realized that this woman had a lot of treasures on her. She had a golden soul stone, and now there was a humanoid fruit and spirit liquid that could promote the growth of heavenly treasures. Where did this person come from? Could it be that she was a little girl from a hidden family who came out to train? The old ancestor was a little conflicted. If this little girl really had a strong background and he stole her things, would the people behind her come looking for him? The Li family would be in trouble. But if he killed this little girl and took her things, his strength would increase greatly. He wouldn't have to be afraid of the power behind this little girl. If he got this humanoid fruit and used the blood to refine pills, the strength of the entire Li family would increase greatly. The Li family would become the true overlord of this area and integrate a lot of resources. The Li family would become more and more powerful and invincible. At that time, the world of the first level would be his world. Even if he didn't enter the second level, he would be a king in the first level. The more the old ancestor thought about it, the more excited he got. He looked at Ning Shu and Liren with killing intent in his eyes. Liren said to Ning Shu, "Back off. I will deal with this old bastard. I'm just new to this. I will kill this bastard." Ning Shu said to the earthworm, "Bite him and turn him into an idiot." When the time came, the old ancestor of the Li family would become a crazy person. Without the support of the old ancestor, the other powers would pounce on the Li family like hungry wolves. Moreover, he didn't believe that the Li family didn't have any enemies. Who wouldn't get stabbed in the underworld? The earthworm stuck out his head and stared at the old ancestor. He shook his head. "The chances of me being bitten aren't high. Moreover, I might be killed. Ning Shu, stupid teammates. They never did anything. They couldn't even deal the finishing blow." Ning Shu pinched his fingers. He had to make a move after all. It didn't make sense for him to remain indifferent when the other party had snatched his things. He really couldn't be like the mountain gaze. His ants were about to be killed and he was forced to recite scriptures. Ning Shu stretched out vines that covered the sky and earth. The vines grew very quickly and soon spread to the old ancestor's side. The dense vines were about to wrap around the old ancestor. The old ancestor dodged the vines' entanglement, but the vines kept surging toward him. The entire sky was covered by vines. The old ancestor didn't even have a place to land. If he landed on the vines, he would soon be entangled by the vines. The old ancestor hit the vines with his spiritual chi. When the two collided, there was a clang. It was like two stiff pieces of iron colliding. The old ancestor was a little stunned. How could the vines be so hard? However, the Li family was an expert who had lived for thousands of years. How could they be defeated by these vines? They directly released a fire element spell and roasted these vines. Fire was fatal to wood, and the originally stiff vines began to shrink. Ning Shu pointed with his finger. Countless raindrops smashed down and landed on the vines, extinguishing the flames. These vines seemed to have been reborn. They were lush and verdant, and the leaves were green and glistening. There were so many good things. Even the old ancestor, who used all the resources of the Li family, couldn't help but be envious and jealous. If there was one of these things, it would be better than 100 pieces of trash. Liren watched silently and finally said, "I feel like I'm a gigolo that you're keeping." Where did these words come from? Ning Shu was very good? It's okay. I'll take you to sell your blood. You're not a gigolo anymore, Ning Shu comforted her. Natural treasures were of no use to Ning Shu. They were not even as useful as a wisp of pure soul power. /BK. Chapter 2431. Ning Shu didn't care about treasures, but to a cultivator with a physical body, the temptation of treasures was no different from the temptation of money and beautiful women to ordinary people. Liren was in despair. Why couldn't this woman be like other women, shy and cute? Why was she so cruel that she wanted him to sell his blood? The old ancestor was busy fighting the vines, but Ning Shu and Liren were chatting. There was also an earthworm that was sad and in a state of despair. A scream attracted everyone's attention. Everyone looked over and saw Pai Lupi stabbing young Master Li's waist from behind. Pai Lupi's body was emitting black gas. He chuckled, looking very sinister. Young Master Li's face was full of disbelief. He turned around and looked at his younger brother who had been beaten by him like a dog. This dog dared to bite him. Pai Lupi pulled out the knife expressionlessly. Blood flowed along the knife. Pai Lupi stabbed again. Young Master Li grunted. My dagger is coated with poison, and it's a poison that targets the soul. You want me to be an artifact spirit forever? I'll make you watch as you lose your power. The experts you recruited can't save you. Pai Lupi smiled faintly. Young Master Li fell to the ground. His soul floated out of his body. He desperately wanted to return to his body, but his soul was still ejected. The blood in his body had been drained. This body was no longer alive. Not only that, young Master Li's soul was emitting thick black smoke. There was also a burnt smell. It was as if an invisible flame was burning his soul. Ning Shu looked at Pai Lupi. Young Master Li was probably holding it in too much. That was why he treated Pai Lupi like this. He was more like an enemy than a brother. I'm in so much pain. Young Master Li curled up his body and spasmed. Pai Lupi said, "Brother, this pain will last for a long time. This poison is not the most poisonous, and the effect is very slow. It will take a long time to burn the soul." Although Pai Lupi's voice was very gentle, the words he said terrified everyone present. Wouldn't young Master Li have to suffer a lot before he died? The educator nun said to Mountain Gazing, "Killing to stop killing, taking revenge with revenge. What's the final result? Look at what he will become after he succeeds in his revenge. He will also be trapped in a demonic land and can't be freed." Mountain Gazing glanced at second young Master Li, who was covered in black qi. After a long while, he said, "He has always been like this, emitting black qi all over his body." Since the first time he saw second young Master Li, he had been emitting black qi all over his body. Mountain Gazing wiped away his tears. "Aunt, don't talk." Luckily, everyone's attention was attracted by this scene. The Li family members stopped attacking the nun. The two successors of the Li family had become soul bodies, and one of them had been poisoned. The Li family had no successor. Bastard! The old ancestor was furious. Now that the enemy was invading, this bastard actually had internal strife. No matter what the reason was, he shouldn't have done that. The old ancestor threw an attack at Pai Lupi, wanting to kill him completely. Pai Lupi's face revealed a mocking expression, but he knew that he couldn't dodge, so he stood there motionless. The Li family elder immediately begged for mercy, saying that the Li family only had one child left, so he couldn't be killed. Otherwise, there would be no successor. But the old ancestor didn't. To the old ancestor, these Li family descendants were just strangers. They served him, helped him manage the Li family, and found resources to worship him. There was no kinship. Without a successor, there were still other members of the Li family, so he didn't care at all. Ning Shu directly condensed a thick ice shield in front of Pai Lupi to save him. The attack penetrated the ice shield. Although the strength was much weaker, it still cut off Pai Lupi's arm. However, he was in soul form, so he condensed a new arm. "Don't be a corpse. If you can't do it, take these people away. Why are you guarding here?" Ning Shu said to Pai Lupi. They weren't corpses. They were treating this place like a nunnery and chanting scriptures. Today, no one can leave. The old ancestor ordered the Li family, "Kill everyone who needs to be killed. Don't leave anyone alive. Let these people leave today. In the future, everyone can come and provoke the Li family." The Li family elders and protectors started to attack. All sorts of spells clashed together. Mountain Gazing watched helplessly as a nun died in front of him. Then her soul was taken away by the Li family. "And I can't take it anymore." Mountain Gazing stood up and pulled out the knife on his back. However, the nun stopped him sternly. Mountain Gazing continued to slash at the Li family members with the huge knife. It seemed like he didn't use any spells. He held the huge knife and split the Li family members into two. Mountain Gazing, stop. Stop. The beautiful nun actually went to pull Mountain Gazing, but Mountain Gazing was in the mood to kill. He pushed the nun who was holding his arm to the ground and was killed by the Li family members. When her soul was taken away again, she shouted at Mountain Gazing, "Mountain Gazing, stop. Don't kill anymore. Leave this place. Don't avenge us." Wang. Before she could finish speaking, she was sucked into the spirit artifact. Mountain Gazing's body stiffened. He turned his head and saw the nun lying in a pool of blood. What he saw were nuns lying on the ground and ants struggling to die. The Li family had turned out in full force, and there were fewer and fewer people on their side. The nuns that Ning Shu had rescued had all been killed, and Ning Shu had been taken away. Ning Shu's heart suddenly wavered. Should he not have pulled these nuns out so early? Would it be safer for them to stay in the cells? Was Mountain Gazing about to go berserk? Haha. The patriarch took out a black flag and stored all the souls he had collected into it. The flag was completely black and emitted a metallic luster. Do you want to have a taste of the power of the soul summoning banner? The old ancestor waved the soul-summoning banner, and countless souls rushed out, fighting to be the first to come out. Countless densely packed human heads rushed out, and their expressions were hideous and painful. They blotted out the sky and even blocked the sunlight. The people below only felt the sky darken as though the sun was being eaten. Ning Shu felt goosebumps all over his body. The densely packed human heads made his trypophobia act up. This kind of world didn't lack souls the most. When a person died, be it a cultivator or an ordinary person, they couldn't enter the cycle of reincarnation. It was fine for cultivators as they could continue cultivating. If it was a relatively weak soul, it would be absorbed by the world after wandering for a while and become a soul stone. /BK. Chapter 2432. However, there were so many souls. The number was truly astonishing. These souls were tumbling in the black fog, struggling in pain. They dragged others into the pain, gnawing and devouring them to become a member of the suffering. Mountain Gaze stared intently at the black fog. His ants were tumbling in the black fog. Their faces were filled with hideous pain, and their eyes were swollen and bloodshot. They shouted at him, "Mountain Gaze, we are in so much pain. Can you accompany us? It's so painful." Mountain Gaze gripped his saber tightly and kept crying, "Ants, ants, Mountain Gaze, save us. We are in so much pain. We are so hungry. Mountain Gaze, we are about to starve to death." Ning Shu put away the vines. Everything that had been tainted by the black fog had been contaminated. Ning Shu did not wish for his woodnomological imprint to be tainted by these things. Furthermore, he discovered that in any cultivation world, there would always be some people who liked to play with souls and borrow the power of souls. Souls were indeed powerful, but using such a painful method to stimulate the power of souls was akin to playing with fire. Liren could not help but frown when he saw the black fog's souls wailing in pain and greed. How disgusting! Mountain Gaze could no longer stand the wailing of the ants. He slashed at the black fog with his saber, slicing it into two. The souls in the black fog roared in pain. The weak and defenseless souls were devoured by the other souls, including Mountain Gaze's ants. Furthermore, the souls that had been struck by Mountain Gaze had dissipated. Mountain Gaze was at a loss. He did not know what to do. No matter what he did, he would hurt the ants. He hugged his head in pain and did not know what to do. The ants' painful cries made Mountain Gaze cry helplessly. The patriarch was extremely pleased. No one could dodge the attack of the soul-summoning banner, especially when they saw that there was something they loved and cared about inside. They would obediently be devoured and become a member of the soul-summoning banner. The corners of Ning Shu's mouth twitched. The nuns, who had previously wanted to sacrifice their lives to protect Mountain Gaze, were now begging him to save them. Although this was not out of their own volition, they could not help but say words to tempt him. However, he still found it somewhat ironic. Did he think that by chanting the scriptures, he was a Buddha and could save the world? The Mountain Gazing was crying like a child. The souls of the nuns in the black fog were still begging the Mountain Gazing to save them, or to come in and be with them forever. The consciousnesses of these souls were controlled by the soul-summoning banner, and the words they spoke were no longer resources. Ning Shu decided to withdraw. Anyway, he had already saved the people he needed to save. It was time to leave. There was no need to stay here for too long. Once the black aura was tainted, it would be impossible to get rid of it. Ning Shu always kept a respectful distance from these things. Liren stared at the proud old ancestor. "I must kill him. He already knows my identity. There will definitely be countless troubles." Ning Shu nodded. "That's good." Liren was like the walking meat of Tang Seng. It was as if eating some meat and drinking some blood could make him soar to the heavens. Ning Shu tapped the old ancestor's body from afar. The old ancestor grinned. Today, none of these people could leave. This was a gift from the heavens to the Li family. If the Li family didn't take it, they would be punished by the heavens. However, not long after, the Li family's old ancestor felt that his body seemed to have become very, very hot. His skin also began to turn red. It was completely red, like a cooked prawn, and white smoke was coming out of it. His body was being cooked? Gurgle, gurgle. He seemed to hear the blood in his veins boiling and bubbling. He tried hard to mobilize the spirit energy in his body to suppress this abnormality, but there was no way to do it. There was no scorching pain. Ning Shu tapped with his finger, and the temperature suddenly dropped. The temperature of the blood in his body directly dropped, and the blood in his body directly froze into ice. No matter how strong a cultivator's body was under such extremely hot and cold temperatures, his body directly exploded into bloody foam, which scattered all over the Li family. Ning Shu set up a barrier in front of him, so he was not sprayed with bloody foam. Old ancestor, the Li family's people were stunned. The old ancestor that they were proud of, the pillar of the Li family, exploded into bloody foam just like that. Not even a complete corpse was left. Although his body exploded, his soul was still there. The old ancestor's soul wasn't strong, and it even looked a little thin. Seeing his body explode into bloody foam, he was furious. Ning Shu picked up the earthworm and threw it at the Li family's old ancestor's soul. The earthworm was caught off guard and was immediately thrown out, and it immediately cried out. Ning Shu said, "You know how to do this kind of thing, right?" In this world, the physical body was gone, but the soul still existed. It could live in another way. A living person and a soul person could live together. This was really a strange world. If it was really possible to live like this, then why would the world of reincarnation exist? It was a place for souls to rest and reincarnate. The situation in the Nine Palace Mountain shouldn't last for long. Something would happen to the world sooner or later. The earthworm said, "You should have at least told me so that I could be mentally prepared." It was really afraid to suddenly throw it out like that. Although the earthworm hated humans, it was more afraid of them. It had always hidden its past in its heart, but it was still afraid. The earthworm hit the old ancestor's soul with a smack. The earthworm immediately opened its mouth to reveal its poisonous fangs and took a bite. Then it quickly ran back. The old ancestor felt a piercing pain in his soul, and then it started to feel like it was being torn apart. He held his head and roared in pain. His soul became thinner and thinner, and the light in his eyes slowly disappeared. He was like a puppet. He was like a wandering soul without any consciousness. But the soul in the flag seemed to have seen something delicious, and it actually swallowed the old ancestor's soul. At the same time, young Master Li, who was lying on the ground crying out in pain, was swallowed too, and joined the soul-devouring array. Such a weak soul like young Master Li would definitely be swallowed. The Li family was stunned. Not only was the old ancestor's physical body gone, but even his soul was gone. The old ancestor was an expert at playing with souls, but now he was actually swallowed by the soul in the flag. Everyone felt like they were dreaming. Ning Shu reached out and grabbed the soul-summoning banner. It felt sticky and disgusting to the touch. She immediately wiped away the old ancestor's consciousness from the soul-summoning banner and collected all the souls. The black soul fog that covered the sky was retracted, and the sunlight shone down. It was even a little dazzling. The Li family people felt like they were dreaming. Everything that happened was really like a dream. Ning Shu shoved the spirit-summoning banner to Ritsuhito. Ritsuhito stared blankly as Ning Shu settled the matter. Suddenly, something appeared in his hand. /BK. Chapter 2433. Liren lowered his head and looked at the black flag. He asked curiously, "Why are you giving it to me? I have such a pure soul, so I can't touch it. What if it contaminates my soul?" Ning Shu said. He was afraid that it would contaminate his soul, so he gave it to him. Liren was expressionless. "You are thinking too much." Ning Shu and the others prepared to leave. Pai Lupi dragged Wang Shan, who was wiping his tears and hugging his head. After they left the Li family, Pai Lupi realized that something was missing, right? "Where is Li Si?" Ning Shu punched his palm. "Right, he is still locked up in the secret room." Thus, they returned to the Li family. After a fierce battle, the Li family couldn't be looked at anymore. The walls were broken and there were bloodstains everywhere. The Li family old ancestor's body exploded, causing the entire Li family to be covered in bloodstains. If they had to clean up the bloodstains, they would be so tired that they would vomit milk. The entire Li family was in a sad and fearful atmosphere. They were all panicking. The old ancestor was dead, so who would protect the Li family? They went to the secret room and saved Li Si. When Li Si saw Pai Lupi, his eyes were filled with tears. He was surprised and touched. "Young master, you are fine. That is great." Pai Lupi looked at his subordinate and sighed. He thought that the next time they met would be when they died. Ning Shu felt that this pair of master and servant who depended on each other for survival was really touching. Ning Shu looked at the stairs made from hundreds of spirit stones. She couldn't let them go to waste. She stretched out her vines, and the vines plucked all the spirit stones from the stairs. Then she stored them in her meson space. The soul stone steps that the Li family used to show off their wealth were totally destroyed. When the Li family saw this, they were in despair. After Ning Shu's group left, in a secret room of the Li clan, a man was spitting out blood. Upon closer inspection, this man's facial features were exactly the same as the Li clan ancestors. Even his expression was the same. The man covered his chest and spat out another mouthful of blood. He looked tired and said fiercely, "I won't let you go." The clone that he had painstakingly condensed was destroyed just like that. Cultivators would usually form two clones and cultivate together, splitting their souls into two halves. In truth, they were the same person. This was to prevent anything from happening. Some cultivators would even form several clones. When they came across materials suitable for forming clones, they would choose to form clones to help them deal with certain matters. Even if one of them died, it would at most cause some damage to the others. The Li family had been ruined to such an extent, and they had even lost a clone. Only by capturing those people could they make up for their losses. Just as the Li family members were imagining their miserable future, and some of them were even packing up and preparing to flee, the Li family's old ancestor appeared in front of them again, saying that the one who died was a clone. With someone to rely on, the Li family's valiant and high-spirited aura returned. The old ancestor directly marked out Pai Lupi's name from the Li family's genealogy book. He didn't need such a traitor. Then he began to arrest that group of people. The bounty was particularly generous. Except for a man in red, the others were wanted. If they died, their souls would be captured. In addition to rich cultivation resources, the bounty also allowed one to become an elder or protector of the Li family and enjoy a lot of resources. The Li family was definitely the overlord of this area. As soon as the arrest warrant was issued, the itinerant cultivators of the Jianghu and cultivators who wanted to make a fortune began to search for Ning Shu's group. After leaving the Li family, this group of people looked at each other in dismay. Where should they go next? Pai Lupi could not return to the small courtyard. The Shadow Plum Nunnery on the mountain gaze was empty now that all the nuns were dead. If he returned, it would be an empty nunnery. It was not considered a home anymore. Ning Shu was not from the Nine Palace Mountain. What he wanted to do the most was to leave the Nine Palace Mountain. During this period, Ning Shu tried several times but failed to summon the black hole and leave the Nine Palace Mountain. As for Liren, as a person who had just transformed, he naturally followed Ning Shu wherever he went. As a result, the entire team did not have a destination. They just wandered around, going wherever they went. 2333's voice suddenly appeared in Ning Shu's mind. "Damn, where did you go? Didn't you do the mission?" Ning Shu felt that he should have been wandering around for a long time. He had spent a lot of time on the Nine Palace Mountain. Time must have passed quickly outside. Ning Shu said in despair, "I'm trapped in the Nine Palace Mountain. Try to teleport me back to the system space." In the past, he could come and go as he pleased. Now that he was trapped here, Ning Shu was very worried and worried that he would never be able to get out. Tried. "I can't teleport you back. I wish you the best." 2333 said. Ning Shu said, "Then do I have to be trapped here forever?" "Maybe because you often enter the Nine Palace Mountain and the Heavenly Tao knows you, so it decided to use you." 2333 said. Ning Shu pounded the ground and cried. She had just been used by the heavenly Tao in her previous world. What was this 9-palace mountain going to do? Was the words, "I'm easy to scheme against," carved on her forehead? The heavenly Tao is a high-speed and precise computer. It manages the world according to a specific program. However, it might be reformatted and restarted. 2333 said. Maybe it knows that you are the heavenly Tao of the outside world. 2333 said. Ning Shu was expressionless. What heavenly Tao of the outside world? When did she become the heavenly Tao? When did she become the heavenly Tao? Why didn't she know? The world of reincarnation. You are the heavenly Tao of the world of reincarnation. 2333 said. Ning Shu was speechless. What kind of heavenly Tao was she? Even if she was the heavenly Tao of the world of reincarnation, the world of reincarnation still carried the 9-palace mountain. 9-palace mountain still locked the heavenly Tao of the world of reincarnation inside. What kind of logic was this? What was it trying to do? If something happened to the world of reincarnation and the 9-palace mountain couldn't get anything out of it, then let me out quickly. This was illegal imprisonment. It was restricting the freedom of others. 2333 left after saying a few words. Even if Ning Shu called him, he didn't respond. This made Ning Shu even more depressed. Why are you in a daze? Liren pushed Ning Shu in annoyance. Ning Shu staggered. Ning Shu came back to her senses and looked at him coldly. Will it kill you to speak properly? Then why did you hit me? He felt wronged after being punched in the face. Your hooligan behavior. It wouldn't be too much even if I beat you to death. Ning Shu said firmly. The world is so big. You can do whatever you want. You don't have to follow me. Are you chasing me away? You watered me every day and planted me, but you don't care about me. I've never seen such an irresponsible person like you. Don't you feel guilty? Don't you feel guilty? Don't you feel guilty? Don't you feel guilty? /BK. Chapter 2434. Ning Shu chuckled. My conscience is alive and kicking. It won't feel uneasy. Won't your conscience hurt if you force yourself to extort money? Earthworm felt his heart hurt. It hurt a lot. You don't feel pain, but I do. Liren pulled a long face. His face was somewhat similar to Ning Shu's. When he pulled a long face, it was really a little imposing and scary. Ning Shu asked, where did those words in your head come from? There was no such thing as a kept woman or a gigolo here. There were also those shameful lines, such as not being allowed to go home until they finished eating. What a troublesome little vixen. These were words that did not belong to this world at all. You passed them to me. I sensed them when you touched me. Liren said and sneered. You touched me back and forth, but you didn't recognize me. If I knew you were in such a situation, I would rather chop off my hand than touch you. Liren's words were so dirty when he touched her when she was a baby. Moreover, she had checked his body at that time. Don't think that I look like your mother. Ning Shu didn't think that Liren belonged to her. Similarly, she didn't belong to Liren. She had never asked Liren to do anything for her, but Liren couldn't use this kind of thing to extort money. The world was vast. Why should he follow her? Not to mention that she was born for her. She was born long ago. She couldn't bear such a huge responsibility. Liren looked at Ning Shu from the corner of his eyes. Ning Shu saw that he was using a face that was somewhat similar to his to make such an expression. He really deserved a beating. Ning Shu suddenly felt that he also deserved a beating. This was really a terrifying realization. No, it should be that Liren deserved a beating. It had nothing to do with his appearance. Mountain Gaze, who had been crying all this time, burped from crying. Now that he had finally cried enough, he said to Ning Shu with red eyes, Can you release my aunts? There's no saving her even if she's released. Your aunts are completely different from when they were alive. She's no longer your aunt, Ning Shu said. Mountain Gaze said stubbornly, But I want to see them. So what if you do? They will only seduce you and drag you into that kind of hell. You will suffer as much as they do. The only thing left in them is evil. Ning Shu said with a frown. If you insist on watching, it will only make you suffer more. I want to avenge Aunt. I want revenge. Mountain Gazing's body trembled. Young Master Li has been killed, and his soul has been devoured by your aunt. You can say that you have taken your revenge. I don't know what kind of power your body has that your aunt would rather die than let you use your own power. Ning Shu shrugged and said. He realized that all his team members were problematic children. How tiring! She had to think of a way to leave Nine Palace Mountain. Being trapped in Nine Palace Mountain would waste a lot of her time. Where should she go next? Ning Shu didn't know what was wrong with this world, so he decided to mine. He hadn't dug out all the mines, but he was afraid that it would affect his soul origins. He didn't dig until they were extinct. However, there was a problem with the world. Ning Shu was afraid that there would be a problem with the soul stones in the soul stone mine. Since he couldn't leave for the time being, he decided to mine. As long as there were soul stones, everything would be fine. Ning Shu made the decision to mine. This group of homeless children followed Ning Shu wherever he went. The first place they went was the soul stone mine in the sea. It was a very large mine. Ning Shu only dug out a small portion of the soul stones and only dug a tunnel. Ning Shu didn't touch the other soul stones. Ning Shu went into the sea. The other babies stood on the beach and waited for him. When Mountain Gaze saw the sea, he recalled that he had met Ning Shu here. That was when he had just left the Shadow Plum Nunnery and wandered the pugilistic world. Things had happened like a wild horse. The cruel pugilistic world had given Mountain Gaze a heavy blow. It was like a dream. Ning Shu entered the mine and enveloped himself with a barrier. Then he started mining. He decided to dig out all the soul stones and not leave a single one behind. What if something happened to the world? Ning Shu knocked in the sea. There was a suffocating silence between the four people and an earthworm on the beach. Liren was a little impatient. He wanted to go into the sea time and time again, but he retreated. They waited from day to night and then until sunrise. The four of them had turned into statues. They were motionless and had numb expressions. When Ning Shu came out and saw the four wooden blocks, he thought that they didn't have souls. They looked very creepy. Ning Shu walked over and said, "The matter has been resolved. Everyone, let's disperse and return to our homes." Then, the four of them rolled their eyes slowly and stared at Ning Shu numbly. All right, the four of them didn't have families or mothers. Did she have to bring the four of them? How hopeless! Pai Lupi said, "Actually, there are many things in that small house. There are many soul stones and natural treasures that have grown and been collected." Are you sure the Li family didn't take them? With so many good things, he didn't believe that the Li family wouldn't search for them. I hid them very well. Ordinary people wouldn't notice them, Pai Lupi said. It was great to have soul stones. Then what are you talking about? Go to the small house and take the things. Liren looked askance at him. Other than these things, there's nothing else in your heart. Ning Shu also looked askance at him. What do you want me to have in my head? Do you want me to think of you every day and have a face that looks so similar to mine? She knew that Liren was only looking for a reference to grow up. There was no such thing as Liren had said. If she and Earthworm hadn't barged into that secret chamber, Liren would probably have grown up to look like that soul. Would he have treated that man as his partner? Ning Shu looked askance at him. Liren looked askance at him. At the same time, they chuckled. Earthworm? Underscore? Hee hee. Along the way, Mountain Gaze wetted a few handkerchiefs from crying. He carried a huge saber on his back and looked very pitiful. However, no one could sympathize with him. In the beginning, everyone would try to persuade him, especially Pai Lupi. He felt very embarrassed and felt that it was because of him that Mountain Gaze was involved in the Li family's matter. His big brother looked normal on the surface, but he was paranoid. That was why such a tragedy had happened. When he wetted the handkerchief with his tears, Li Si would help him wash it clean and dry it in his hands. It was considered atonement for his master. Of course, the water used to wash the handkerchief was provided by Ning Shu. However, everyone was numb to his continuous crying. Ning Shu felt that this big guy was still in a psychological state, especially after encountering such a thing. He could only cry. There was no other way to express his pain. Ning Shu was glad that he didn't drown his sorrows with alcohol. Otherwise, he would have to take care of a drunk man. /BK. Chapter 2435. Wang Shan probably didn't know that there was something called wine in this world. When they arrived at the small courtyard, Ning Shu saw many people loitering around before he entered. Some sharp-eyed people saw them. They're here. There are 5 of them. Not one of them is missing. Ning Shu looked at these cultivators with high cultivation bases. There were soul cultivators and fleshly body cultivators. All of them gathered and surrounded them. One of the cultivators asked, "Are you Li Si, Li Ji, and Wang Shan?" The people of the Li family didn't know the names of Ning Shu and Liren. The arrest warrant said that the 2 of them were wearing red clothes and looked similar. It was completely correct. Wang Shan blew his nose and asked in a hoarse voice, "I am. What's the matter?" Wang Shan was obviously a rookie in the pugilistic world. He didn't feel that the other party was aggressive and the atmosphere was not right. "That's you. You are wanted by the Li family. If you obediently surrender, we won't harm your lives," one of the cultivators said in a deep voice. "Well, they were wanted." Ning Shu asked, "Who from the Li family wants us?" The Li family patriarch was dead. The Li family didn't deal with those forces and actually dared to want them. Was there something wrong with their brains? Of course it's the Li family patriarch who personally came out of seclusion to arrest you. The 4 of them looked at each other. Didn't the Li family patriarch explode into a bloody mist in front of them? Even his soul was devoured by the soul-attracting banner. Why did another Li family patriarch appear now? "Are you sure it's the Li family patriarch?" Ning Shu asked. "Of course." Pai Lupi's expression was somewhat ugly. Perhaps the patriarch has a clone. If he had known that there would be such a calamity, he would have also created a clone. At that time, he was young and full of vigor. Not far from splitting his soul into several parts, he felt that with his talent, he would definitely become an eye-catching expert if he cultivated a body. But he never expected that. Ning Shu was speechless. What damn clone? If one clone was killed, who knew how many more there were? However, it was better to split one's soul. In the end, it was better to have a complete soul. However, there were also those who were afraid of death and would constantly split their souls to create doppelgangers. However, the strength of each doppelganger was not that great. It was no wonder that she had wondered why the soul of a powerhouse was so thin. It turned out that it was only a part of his soul. "Can I ask about the reward for us?" Ning Shu and the other cultivators who wanted to claim the reward asked. The cultivators looked at Ning Shu suspiciously. One of them threw a jade slip to Ning Shu. Ning Shu scanned the jade slip. Among their group, the one with the highest bounty was Liren, who even wanted to be captured alive. The one with the lowest bounty was Li Si. When Ning Shu saw Liren's bounty, he was immediately moved. He said to Liren, "Why don't I send you to get the bounty and then you escape? We can save you." Liren was horrified. "Do you still have any integrity?" Ning Shu said, "There's nothing bad about getting so many soul stones and cultivation resources for free. Besides, I'm not sincerely handing you over." "Why are you doing this? Why are you forcing me?" Mountain Gaze wiped his tears while holding the saber. "Auntie always said that evil people will be punished by the heavens. However, these people have forced me time and time again. Auntie, I don't want to do anything." Then, Mountain Gaze began to recite the scriptures. He recited the scriptures very quickly, indicating how conflicted he was. Ning Shu said, "Don't listen. Don't look. I can't do it. Regardless of whether I open or close my eyes, I look like my auntie. I can't take it anymore. My auntie didn't do anything. Why do they have to suffer such misfortune? The gods worshipped by the Shadow Plum Nunnery don't protect my auntie. My auntie has never dared to neglect them for a day. Why? Mountain Gaze hugged his head and cried bitterly. Ning Shu really did not know how to comfort Mountain Gaze, whose worldview had collapsed. Also, the worldview that the nuns of the Shadow Plum Nunnery had created for Mountain Gaze was a little shocked. It was a little shocking. Mountain Gaze began to doubt his entire life. "Why are you forcing me?" Why are you forcing me? Mountain Gaze held the saber and rushed at these cultivators, slashing at them like he was chopping melons. However, even with such a disorganized saber technique, no one was a match for Mountain Gaze. As Mountain Gaze slashed, he shouted, "Why are you so aggressive? I don't want to do anything." The other three did not even have a chance to attack. Mountain Gaze had yet to recover from the blow of the Shadow Plum Nunnery's death overnight. Now, the other party was endless. Mountain Gaze vented his pain on killing. However, the three onlookers did not have the awareness of using death to persuade Mountain Gaze to stop. They watched as he chopped one person after another, muttering to himself, "Don't force me to make a move," or chanting scriptures. The cultivators who had come for the bounty were either killed or seriously injured. When they were about to escape, they were chased by Mountain Gaze and captured. "Why are you forcing me to do something? Auntie said that I can't do anything." There was not a single person around who was not terrified. Ning Shu frowned tightly. The nun did not want him to do anything. Could it be that Mountain Gaze was a straightforward person? It was obvious that he had suffered a blow and could not change his mood. Ning Shu floated to Mountain Gaze's side and said, "Enough. Stop." Mountain Gaze turned his head and stared at Ning Shu with his scarlet eyes. The pupils in his red eyes could no longer be seen. It was really blood red. It seemed that he had really lost his mind. Ning Shu slashed the back of his neck with his saber, but Mountain Gaze did not react. He did not have any intention of fainting. This was a little awkward. "Enough." Ning Shu snatched the saber from his hand. "I'm your auntie. Look at me." Mountain Gaze seemed to wake up for a moment. The scarlet in his eyes faded away as he stared at Ning Shu. The cultivators who did not die under the saber scrambled away. The cultivators who were secretly observing also began to retreat. This was simply a wild beast. It was not worth it to kill an old master with random punches for some bounty. "You are not my auntie." Mountain Gaze wiped his tears. "My auntie. I want to see my auntie." "They are not your auntie anymore. Pull yourself together. When I think of a way to let your auntie escape this pain, she might be able to reincarnate again." In the soul summoning banner, she was not devoured by other souls. She had to endure endless pain. "Really?" Mountain Gaze immediately asked. "There's a certain chance." The premise was that she could leave Nine Palace Mountain and hand this over to His Excellency. Perhaps His Excellency could handle it. Now that she was trapped in Nine Palace Mountain, she could not do anything. Mountain Gaze's mood improved slightly, but he was still wiping his tears. Everyone entered the small courtyard. The house had already collapsed. However, Pai Lupi did not dig the ruins. Instead, he went to the land where the natural treasures were cultivated and began digging. /BK. Chapter 2436. The secret room was below? This secret room was buried very deep. Pai Lupi and Li Si had been digging like moles for a long time. They probably didn't just dig 3 feet. They were almost at the bottom of the room. "We're here." Pai Lupi arched out of the ground and said. Ning Shu slid down the hole. Ning Shu asked Liren and Mountain Gaze to guard the entrance. Liren immediately pulled a long face. "Are there any secrets inside that you can't let me know? Then get down." Ning Shu couldn't be bothered with him. Liren touched his nose. "Then I'll guard the entrance." Ning Shu was speechless. This was a small secret room. The walls were made of stone, and it was filled with large boxes. When the boxes were opened, they were filled with soul stones and several ring spaces. The ring spaces probably couldn't fit them all, so they were stored in the boxes. "Then shall we split these soul stones?" Pai Lupi, Ning Shu asked. "Then let's split them." "There's a problem with your soul. You need to absorb less soul stones," Ning Shu said. Pai Lupi was speechless. In the end, Ning Shu took 70% and Pai Lupi took 30%. "I didn't expect you to save so much behind my back. You must have been showing me fake accounts every time." Ning Shu looked at Pai Lupi from the corner of his eyes. "Who doesn't have the habit of saving money?" "I saved these from the gaps between my teeth," Pai Lupi said without changing his expression. Ning Shu said, Then the gaps between your teeth are really big. After climbing out of the ground, Liren, who was supposed to be guarding the entrance, was gone. Ning Shu looked around but didn't see him. He didn't say anything and ran off somewhere. Even Mountain Gaze was gone. Liren! Ning Shu shouted, but there was no response from Liren. Where did they go? Pai Lupi looked around and asked. Ning Shu released his spiritual power and scanned the surroundings, but he didn't see these two people. He felt that something would definitely happen if Mountain Gaze and Liren teamed up. Liren gave people the feeling that he did as he pleased and did not care about any rules. Mountain Gazing was a straightforward person. When the two of them encountered problems, it was really irreparable. If she had really been kidnapped, there would have been some noise. It was impossible for someone to kidnap her without making a sound. When they were dividing the loot, she had disappeared. He was really worried sick. Do you want to look for it? Li Si asked Ning Shu carefully. There's no need to look for them. No one should be able to hurt them. Perhaps they got impatient and didn't want to follow us anymore. They left, Ning Shu said directly. They were strangers who had met by chance, and Ning Shu had discovered that Earthworm had run away with them. Earthworm definitely loved Liren. No matter what he did to her, she would forgive him and tolerate him infinitely. Ning Shu asked Pai Lupi and his servant, "What are your plans next?" If the team was disbanded, Ning Shu felt that it would be easier for him to be alone. He could do whatever he wanted. It was not easy to lead a big team, and they were all teammates who were always dragging them down. Pai Lupi shook his head. I don't know. I've been removed from the Li family and am wanted. Wherever I go, there will probably be people who want to capture me and bring me to the Li family to receive a reward. I'll follow you. This girl was so powerful. He felt safe following her. Ning Shu was speechless. You can't always follow me. To be honest, I will disappear for a period of time. What will you do when I disappear? She was going to leave Nine Palace Mountain. Would Pai Lupi follow her out of Nine Palace Mountain? He couldn't leave. Are you going back to your home at the end of the universe? Pai Lupi asked. Can you bring me to your home? Ning Shu was speechless. He was determined to stick to her. This was too shameless. Besides, what was the point of having these two people? Sorry, my home at the end of the universe doesn't entertain guests. The others won't agree. Ning Shu rejected him directly. Second young master Li sighed. His battle prowess was truly too weak now. There was a problem with his soul, and he couldn't continue to absorb soul stones. The Li family patriarch was still alive, and could crush him with a single finger. Pai Lupi continued, why don't we rob the Li family? Instead of being wanted, we might as well take the initiative to kill the Li family patriarch. Ning Shu looked at him from the corner of his eyes. That's your family's ancestor. What ancestor? I've never seen him. I've only heard of him. He's like a stranger. I don't feel anything. Besides, he has already removed my name from the Li family. I'm no longer a member of the Li family. Pai Lupi didn't care at all. Ning Shu thought for a moment. I have more important things to do. To mine. Don't you like soul stones? The Li family has a lot of them. Besides, they took a lot from the courtyard. The Li family occupies a lot of mineral resources. They have both soul stones and spirit stones. Pai Lupi tempted Ning Shu. Ning Shu looked at him expressionlessly. So, how many soul stones did you hide? A little. Other than the ones in the secret room, they were all taken by Li Ji, Pai Lupi said. If he hadn't suddenly encountered such a situation, he would probably never have told her. Ning Shu touched his chin and stared at Pai Lupi. It seemed like he had to find another partner. It was normal for him to hide, but to this extent he was clearly playing her like a fool. Pai Lupi immediately raised his hand. I apologize. I did hide some soul stones. Because I'm in a spirit state, I don't feel safe. Seeing these soul stones every day fills my heart with a sense of security. Ning Shu laughed. Hee hee. Ning Shu left the courtyard. Pai Lupi and Li Si followed behind Ning Shu. Li Si whispered to Pai Lupi, Young master, great aunt is angry. Pai Lupi didn't say anything. As soon as they left the courtyard, they saw two men standing there. One was Liren, and the other was Wangshan, who was blowing his nose. Liren looked at Ning Shu in despair. I'm gone, but you're not worried. You didn't even look for me. Aren't you worried that I'll be captured by the Li family's patriarch to bleed me for alchemy? Ning Shu said. Can you be any more pretentious? He ran away from home for no reason to test other people's feelings. What kind of trash did Liren accept? Everyone was an independent individual. They had to bear everything by themselves. The people they met in life were all passers-by. Even if they were husband and wife, they could die first and leave you alone. Ning Shu really didn't care if Liren left or stayed. He had his own life. Liren was speechless. Fuck, this woman didn't follow the rules. Liren restrained the despair on his face and pulled a long face. He was very unhappy. Ning Shu looked at Wangshan, who said in a muffled voice, He dragged me away. What the fuck? Everyone had gathered again. Ning Shu had always wanted to act alone. Why did he have to bring these people, especially when the 5 of them were wanted criminals? 2 of them were wearing menstrual-colored clothes and swaggering through the streets. /BK. Chapter 2437. With the previous example, Liren also gave up on disappearing. It was useless to make Ning Shu anxious. Thus, Liren pulled a long face along the way, feeling very unhappy. During this time, Ning Shu kept trying to see if a black hole could appear to leave this place, but it was impossible. After a while, Ning Shu felt a bit irritated. They had been in the 9 Palace Mountain for so long, who knew what had happened outside? Time passed quickly outside, and by the time she went out, the world might have changed. Was the organization still around? Ning Shu originally wanted to go mining, but along the way, there were many small tails tailing them. They were probably cultivators who wanted to capture them for a reward. When they appeared in the town, there were wanted posters all over the streets, pointing at the 4 of them. Ning Shu picked up the wanted posters on the ground, saying that they had stolen the Li family's peerless treasure. It was a heaven and earth treasure fruit that could transform. There was also a soul worm. A heaven and earth treasure that could transform was very exciting. The cultivators who were watching from the sidelines all moved out. Drinking the blood of a heaven and earth treasure fruit could greatly increase one's cultivation. These cultivators were either here for the reward, or they wanted to take the heaven and earth treasure fruit for themselves. Even if they couldn't get the whole thing, getting an arm or a leg was still not bad. Thus, the group behind them grew bigger and bigger. Wherever they went, people would buy things. For example, in restaurants, if they were late, they wouldn't be able to book a room. Ning Shu didn't care about these people. Pai Lupi frowned. Gazing Mountain would occasionally feel sad. He wanted Ning Shu to release his ants and wanted to see them, but he was rejected by Ning Shu every time. Gazing Mountain could cry a few more times. Liren obviously knew that there were people behind them, and said gloomily, that ancestor is doing it on purpose. He wants these people to exhaust our strength, and then he can take advantage of us. Ning Shu, with you by my side, I suddenly became the public enemy of the world. When your body is cut open, the blood that flows out is sweet. Liren heard Ning Shu's disdain and immediately said, What can I do? Can I choose my birth? Do you think I want to be a fruit that can be eaten at any time? I can't control the fragrance of my blood. Liren was very excited. I haven't despised you for being a spirit body yet. Ning Shu narrowed his eyes. Then let's just dislike each other. Liren still wanted to say something, but he felt the ground beneath his feet tremble slightly. He immediately lay down on the ground to listen. Ning Shu also lay down. Indeed, he could hear the ground rumbling. Could this be the reason why the 9 Palace Mountain was trembling? When Pai Lupi saw the 2 of them lying down, he followed suit. In the end, only Wangshan was left standing there. Humans were kind-hearted. The cultivators following them also lay down on the ground. What's the reason? Ning Shu asked. Could it be that there was an earthquake? The earthworm burrowed into the ground and came out after a while. It's the movement from the land of lightning punishment. The earthworm said it's the land of lightning punishment. You can hear that? Pai Lupi was surprised. He suddenly realized that he was the weakest in the team. Of course, there was also Li Si. Of course. As long as it's something on the ground, there's nothing I don't know, the earthworm said proudly. However, other than Ning Shu, no one could communicate with him. When Ning Shu heard that it was the land of lightning punishment, he was immediately interested. Could it be that the monster in the land of lightning punishment was about to come out? Everyone headed for the land of lightning punishment. The people behind them hurriedly followed. The closer they got to the land of lightning punishment, the stronger the trembling became. Ning Shu felt that he might have found the reason why the Nine Palace Mountain was trembling. Perhaps the thing that had been struck by lightning was about to come out. Did it come out? Could it leave the Nine Palace Mountain? By the time Ning Shu's group arrived at the land of lightning penalty, the tribulation clouds that had been lingering around the mountain peak were no longer there. The changes to the land of lightning penalty had attracted the attention of many cultivators. These cultivators went back and forth to inspect the pitch-black mountain range. Everyone was still happy that the tribulation clouds were gone. Now they could look for treasures. Ning Shu stood at the foot of the mountain range. The ground kept trembling. He did not know what would jump out. Ning Shu also looked around. Other than the barren mountain range, there was nothing, let alone any treasures. When they arrived here, the earthworm trembled like the mountain range. Clearly, he was thinking of the guy covered in lightning. More and more cultivators rushed over. Clearly, they felt that some kind of treasure would appear here. Considering how long it had been struck by lightning earlier, the treasure must surely be extraordinary. It did not take long before cultivators from all over the place gathered around a donut, looking like ants. Those who came late did not even have a place to stand. Those cultivators who wanted to kill Ning Shu and his group to get the bounty also temporarily focused on the mountain range. However, the things in the mountain range were like difficult childbirth. They did not come out for a few days. Apart from the trembling, they stood on the trembling ground and bit their tongues when speaking. The commotion in the land of lightning punishment attracted the Li clan ancestor. The 5 people and the Li clan ancestor looked at each other. Sparks flew. The Li clan ancestor's gaze focused on Liren. Liren said unhappily, "What are you looking at? Do you love me?" The Li clan ancestor coldly snorted. He paid attention to the mountain range. Clearly, he felt that the mountain range was more important now. These people could not escape. This ancestor was exactly the same as that ancestor. Did he set the appearance of the clones to be the same? He should have set them to be different. The mountain range trembled more and more. Ning Shu was very worried that his world of reincarnation would be affected by the tremors of this world. Everyone thought that the treasure inside was going to come out again and again. However, it still did not appear. Everyone was getting impatient. However, the ground continued to tremble as if it was deliberately teasing them. Kacha, kacha. Cracks appeared in the mountain range. Everyone immediately stretched their necks. Soon, the cracks spread throughout the entire mountain range. Soon it would come out. The cultivators took out their spirit tools and prepared to fight for the treasure. Ning Shu was also very curious. What kind of monster was that? As for the treasure, Ning Shu felt that there might not be any. A monster covered in lightning jumped out. Was it unexpected? Was it a pleasant surprise? The earthworm could not control its body. It trembled more exaggeratedly than the mountain range. However, no one pitied it. Even if they wanted to fight, they would not let it go. Ning Shu vaguely knew what was inside. He was not looking forward to it. Instead, he focused on the Li clan ancestor. When the time comes, he would take advantage of the chaos to kill this guy. Otherwise, he would be so annoyed. How could he develop his foundation here? Because of this incident, second young master Li could no longer plant heaven and earth treasures to earn soul stones. Now, she had no income at all. /BK. Chapter 2438. After dealing with the Li family ancestor, the Li family would naturally scatter and not be a threat. However, he didn't know how many clones the Li family ancestor had. In any case, he would kill whoever came. He didn't believe that the Li family ancestor had countless clones. While they couldn't leave the Nine Palace Mountain, they had to deal with the hidden danger of the Li family. When young Master Pai Lupi settled down, they could plant grass and earn soul stones again. The Li family ancestor seemed to sense Ning Shu's gaze and turned to look at Ning Shu. He revealed a smile and glanced at the big man, mountain gazing. His smile was filled with the feeling of victory. Ning Shu raised his brows and glanced at mountain gazing. What was the Li family ancestor trying to do? Ning Shu couldn't figure it out. In addition, the cracks in the mountain range were getting denser, so Ning Shu focused all his attention on the mountain range. Boom! The entire mountain range exploded. Rocks flew everywhere, and a penetrating sound came from the mountain range. This sound was a bit like the cry of a cow, but it was more majestic and deep. After everyone avoided the flying rocks and looked at the mountain range, they found something surrounded by lightning. Not only that, it was sleeping in a sea of lightning with lightning flashing all over. It had silver-white scales and a huge body. At this moment, it raised its head and opened its eyes. Even its eyes were flashing with lightning. It slowly stood up and its body was huge. Ning Shu looked up at this thing. It was like a fucking qilin with lightning under its feet. All the cultivators were like ants standing in front of an elephant. This thunder qilin's eyes swept across the cultivators present. Then, it lowered its head and gulped down all the lightning in the lightning lake. When Ning Shu saw this, he gulped. Many cultivators couldn't help but stretch their necks and gulp when they saw how powerful this thing was. Some people had already started to retreat. This thing was so powerful, so how could they have a share? Of course, there were also powerful cultivators who planned to capture this guy and make him their mount. With such a mount, there was no need to be flashy. Wherever it went, it would be equipped with top-notch equipment. Moreover, it was covered in lightning and had extraordinary strength. Some confident cultivators rubbed their palms together. Ning Shu took a look at himself and the Thunder Kirin. Furthermore, he was a spiritual body. If he were to be struck by lightning, which was an extreme yang energy, he would definitely be at a disadvantage. He then looked at the people around him. None of them were reliable. If Liren were to rush over, he would feel like a fruit rushing over and the Thunder Qilin would swallow him whole. Therefore, Ning Shu felt that he should observe in secret and let these cultivators observe the situation first. The Thunder Kirin leisurely drank all the thunder in the Thunder Lake. It swung its tail like an ox's tail and prepared to run away. Seeing that the flashy mount was about to escape, several cultivators immediately surrounded the Thunder Kirin. The auras of these cultivators were formidable, even stronger than that of the Li family patriarch. Of course, there was also the possibility that the Li family patriarch's aura was weak after losing his clone. The surrounded Thunder Kirin pawed its hooves and breathed out air from its nostrils. Lightning crackled all over its body. Although these people were powerful, Ning Shu felt that it would be very difficult to win this battle. The difference in size was like heaven and earth. Secondly, lightning was such a powerful weapon that mortals could not resist. Drinking lightning was like drinking water. The result was obvious. This thing is so annoying. Liren stared at the Kirin. 4 wood-type things, lightning and fire were fatal. It was normal for Liren to hate the Kirin that was covered in lightning. I really want to kill this thing. Ning Shu, you have to have the ability to kill it first. Now that the Thunder Kirin was out, would the world of 9 Palace Mountain tremble? Could she go out? Ning Shu tried to summon the black hole, but it did not appear. How long was she going to be locked up for? She still wanted to go out. She felt that the world was going to be chaotic. There was a walking treasure, Liren, and now there was a Kirin covered in lightning. How did such an invincible existence with no natural enemies come into existence? Ning Shu was very depressed. No matter how the world was going to change, Ning Shu hoped that she could go out. The Thunder Kirin spat out a ball of lightning at each of them. Its body exploded with dazzling lightning. While the cultivators were dodging the ball of lightning, it stepped on one of them. Although the cultivator tried his best to resist with his spiritual artifact, he was still stepped on by the Kirin. He cried out in pain and then there was no more sound. It also swallowed a cultivator in one gulp. The cultivator that was swallowed did not even have time to cry out. The Thunder Kirin lifted its foot and swung its tail. The cultivator that was stepped on was turned into a matchstick man. Even if he was not dead, his cultivation was probably crippled. In just one exchange, 2 powerful cultivators had been killed. This made many cultivators tremble. This was a bug that could not be defeated. How could such a powerful thing be born in the first level? Many powerful cultivators went back to the second level or even higher. Each level had a limit. When one's strength reached a certain level, they would reach a bottleneck. Unless they entered the second level or higher, they would be able to improve. This thing's strength could totally crush the cultivators of this world. It didn't make sense for it to be born in such a world. After dealing with the ant blocking its way, the Thunder Kirin swung its tail. It stepped into the air and was about to run. "I can't take it," Liren said and rushed towards the Thunder Kirin. He stood in front of the Thunder Kirin and faced the Kirin. "Damn." Ning Shu rubbed his face. He couldn't even stop this fellow and charged over. Li family ancestors saw the situation and laughed coldly. It was best if the two of them fought and both sides were injured. Only then would he be able to benefit. Li family ancestor knew that he couldn't beat this thing covered in lightning with his strength. However, if the lightning could help him consume this fellow's strength, he was really asking for death. The Thunder Kirin looked at the ant that suddenly appeared. It opened its mouth and spat out a ball of lightning. Liren jumped and stepped on the ball of lightning. He raised his fist and smashed towards the Kirin. The lightning from the Kirin's body struck towards him. Liren's hair stood on end. However, his face was black and his hair was smoking. He wasn't dead yet. Liren roared and smashed the Kirin's head. The Kirin took 2 steps back and shook its head that was a little dazed from the beating. Of course, Liren felt worse. Mountain Gaze wanted to help, but he remembered that his aunt said he couldn't fight. Thus, he started chanting scriptures. Liren fought the Thunder Kirin with his bare hands. He was struck by balls of powerful lightning. /BK. Chapter 2439. The battle between Liren and the Thunder Qilin was exciting and nerve-wracking. Ning Shu looked askance at Liren using his body to withstand the lightning. He only grinned and chuckled. Balls of lightning smashed into the ground, creating craters and shaking the mountain range. The Thunder Qilin seemed to be annoyed by this entanglement. It opened its mouth and spat out a ball of purple lightning. It looked harmless. This time, Liren didn't dare to take it head-on. He hurriedly dodged, but the purple lightning brushed past him. Liren's face immediately twisted in pain and he spat out a mouthful of blood. After being stepped on by the Thunder Qilin, the Thunder Qilin raised its head and mooed twice. Then, it swung its hooves and ran away. Ning Shu flew over and saw that Liren's body was pitch black and flashing with lightning. Liren got up. "Next time, I'll definitely kill this bastard." "Why do you insist on killing it?" Ning Shu was a little puzzled. For something like this, if you ignored it, it wouldn't pay attention to you. No one would specially kill ants. Anyway, it's uncomfortable. It's either it dies or I die. Liren grabbed his afro. Natural enemy? Ning Shu could only guess at such an unprovoked hostility. The Li family's patriarch floated over. Ning Shu looked at him indifferently. "Do you think you can take advantage of the situation? I can kill one of your avatars. I can kill you now." The Li family's patriarch looked at Liren, who was pitch black from the lightning, and snorted. He turned to look at Mountain Gaze. "I have the person you want. Your aunt, the abbess of the Shadow Plum Nunnery." Mountain Gaze immediately said, "Abbess is already dead. Her body is dead, but her soul is still in my hands. If you want to save your aunt, bring this person to the Li family and use this person to exchange for your aunt," the Li family's patriarch said coldly. Seeing that Liren hadn't been killed by the Thunder Qilin, he felt fear. This person was stronger than he had imagined. "You are shameless." Without thinking, Mountain Gaze slashed at the Li family's patriarch with his saber. However, what he slashed was an afterimage. The Li family's patriarch should have some teleportation Dharma artifact in his hand. He instantly disappeared. Wangshan's tears flowed even faster. His body was shrouded in deep sorrow. After crying for a long time, he looked at Liren, who had an afro. "I want to capture you and exchange you for my aunt." Liren. Are you sick? Ning Shu said, anyway, we're going to the Li family. Let's take care of the Li family together and save your aunt. Besides, it's not certain whether your aunt's soul is in his hands. How's your aunt's cultivation? Mountain Gaze fell silent for a moment. I don't know. I've never seen Abyss Auntie fight before. After the Thunder Qilin left, many cultivators went to the place where it lay to see if there were any treasures. However, they were disappointed to find nothing. Without finding any treasures, many cultivators focused their attention on Ning Shu and the others. After all, these 4 people were wanted by the Li family. If they caught them, they would be rewarded handsomely. Their presumptuous gazes swept back and forth between the 4 of them. It was said that there was a treasure that could transform. It would be very good to catch a strand of hair. But who was the human-shaped treasure? Was it the big guy blowing his nose? Or was it the 2 wearing red clothes? But these 2 looked too similar. They looked like brother and sister. It was impossible for them to be 2 heavenly treasures that could take human form. As for young Master Pai Lupi, who had been expelled from the Li family, it was absolutely impossible. Gradually, the surrounding cultivators gathered around. As soon as they got close, they smelled Liren's scent. Many people's eyes were filled with excitement. They felt that they had found the right person and stared at Liren with saliva dripping from their mouths. Liren was very unhappy to be stared at by so many ferocious eyes. It was as if they would bite him at any time. So what if he was a fruit? However, not everyone could take a bite out of him. Ning Shu was really helpless. Once he bled, his body would emit a fragrance. What a show-off! Ning Shu, who had a body fragrance, now had a psychological shadow. Looking at the surrounding people, he felt as if he was facing the entire world. This feeling was really not good. He remembered that when Liren was a pocket-sized baby, his skin was very thick. How come his skin became thinner and juicier when he grew up? Sure enough, he was a fruit. Ning Shu pointed his finger and a large amount of water rushed out. Then he snapped his fingers and the water instantly froze. These people instantly turned into ice sculptures. Their expressions also froze. They looked very lifelike. He snapped his fingers again and the ice exploded. These people were all cultivators. Although their bodies were strong, when they were suddenly frozen and the ice layer was suddenly broken, their bodies were already strong enough that they did not shatter into pieces. However, it was still very uncomfortable. After circulating his spirit chi, the cold feeling disappeared. He took all kinds of spirit weapons and walked towards the 5 people. Avalokitesvara Bodhisattva. When he was in deep prajna paramitha, he saw that the 5 skandhas were all emptiness and crossed all suffering. Mountain Gazing's lips moved very quickly. He also recited the sutra faster and faster. Cold sweat dripped down his forehead. Wisdom dissolves all suffering. I can't attack or let go. Ant said I can't attack. Ant is still alive. I can't attack. I can't attack. Mountain Gazing looked at these people. Their faces were all shining with greed. It was like the hell painted on the walls of the Shadow Plum Nunnery. Why do you have to force me like this? I still have to save Ant. Why? Mountain Gazing held a big knife and cried as he slashed people. Ant said I can't attack. If I attack again and again, Ant will definitely punish me by copying sutras. It was unknown what material Mountain Gazing's big knife was made of. As long as one was hit by his knife, one would be as fragile as a piece of paper. Ning Shu said to Liren, "Can you beat him? He's the kind of person who fights randomly." Liren glanced sideways at Mountain Gazing, who was crying and killing until blood flowed like a river. He was still reciting the sutra. He seemed to be a pure person in heaven and earth. However, when the blood splattered on his face and the sutra that came out of his mouth was about saving all living beings, everyone felt a chill in their hearts when they saw the bloodstains on his body. The cultivators who were killed by Mountain Gazing had all turned into soul bodies. They had no choice but to abandon their bodies and run away. Such people were purely crazy. Mountain Gazing's eyes were red from killing. He grabbed one and killed desperately, causing the surrounding cultivators to scatter like birds and beasts. However, There were also powerful cultivators who floated in the air and stared at mountain gazing. This person has a seal. It sealed the restless power. Hey big guy, follow me. I'll help you develop the power in your body. An expert took the lead and said to mountain gazing. Mountain gazing ignored him. He chanted the sutra and kept killing people. Tears fell down his face. This was the boy who loved to cry the most that Ning Shu had ever seen. The sealed power was because mountain gazing only had a little strength now. If the seal was broken, how powerful would he be? /BK, you're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.